In the heart of the mist-shrouded mountains, where ancient ley lines converged like veins of raw mana pulsing through the earth, stood the Arcane Citadel, the most prestigious magic academy in the realm of Eldoria. Towering spires of obsidian and crystal pierced the stormy skies, their surfaces etched with glowing runes that warded off intruders and amplified the innate powers of those within. Here, young mages from noble bloodlines and rare commoner talents honed their affinities for elemental forces, arcane manipulations, and forbidden arts passed down through generations. Social hierarchies were as rigid as the academy's stone walls. The elite scions of high houses lorded over lesser students, their crests emblazoned with symbols of fire, wind, or shadow, while outcasts scraped by on scholarships, their potential often dismissed as fleeting sparks in a bonfire of privilege. Elara Voss, a 17-year-old prodigy from a minor noble family, navigated this world with a quiet intensity that belied her extraordinary gifts. Her hair, a cascade of midnight blue waves, framed a face marked by sharp emerald eyes that seemed to pierce through illusions and secrets alike, born with an affinity for shadow magic. A rare and often mistrusted element, she had risen through the ranks not by birthright, but by sheer brilliance. Instructors whispered of her potential to rival the legendary Archmages of old, those who had bent reality itself to their will. Yet, Elara carried a restlessness, a gnawing curiosity that drove her beyond the sanctioned tomes in the Grand Library. Why settle for the light when the shadows hold the true mysteries? She often thought, her inner voice a mix of defiance and longing. It was on a moonless night, when the Academy's wards hummed with subdued energy, that Elara slipped into the restricted archives. The air was thick with the scent of aged parchment and faint ozone from preserved spells. Dust motes danced in the faint glow of her conjured shadow orb, a flickering black light that absorbed rather than emitted luminescence. She had overheard rumors from a disgruntled senior, whispers of a forbidden grimoire hidden in the depths, said to contain spells from the era of the Great Schism, when mages warred against witches who wielded raw, untamed chaos magic. Elara's heart raced as she bypassed the illusory barriers, her fingers tracing sigils that unraveled like threads under her touch. This could change everything, she murmured to herself, her breath quickening. A chance to unlock powers beyond the Academy's stifling rules. Deeper in the vault, amid crumbling shelves lined with chained volumes, she found it. The grimoire of Thaloria, bound in leather that pulsed like living skin, its cover adorned with a faded emblem of a thorned crescent moon. As her hands clasped the book, a chill seeped into her bones, as if the very essence of winter had awakened. Ignoring the warning prickle at the back of her neck, Elara opened it. Pages flipped of their own accord, revealing scripts in an archaic tongue that twisted before her eyes, reforming into legible words. Visions assaulted her mind, flashes of a woman with wild crimson hair, her eyes burning with ethereal fire, standing defiant against a council of robed figures. This was Thaloria, the infamous witch queen, betrayed by her own kin during the schism. Executed for her radical beliefs that magic should be free, unbound by the Academy's hierarchies. Her spirit had been sealed away, her curses legendary for their vindictive precision. As Elara delved deeper, reciting an incantation to decipher a locked passage, the grimoire trembled. A spectral wind howled through the archive, extinguishing her shadow orb and plunging the room into abyss. From the pages rose a translucent figure, Thaloria herself, her form ethereal yet imposing, clad in tattered robes woven from starlight and thorns. Her voice echoed like shattering glass, laced with centuries of festering rage.
Foolish child!
Her eyes locking onto Elara's with an intensity that rooted the girl in place.
You dare summon me from my prison? I, who was cast down by traitors who feared my power!
Elara stumbled back, her pulse thundering.
I sought knowledge, not this.
She stammered, but curiosity warred with fear in her mind.
Who are you truly? What happened to you?
The witch's laughter was a bitter storm, revealing glimpses of her past, a visionary leader who united outcast mages against the noble elite, only to be sold out by her closest advisor, a lover who coveted her throne. Betrayed, bound, and burned at the stake, Thaloria had woven her final spell, cursing her enemy's bloodlines to eternal strife. Now, awakened, she saw in Elara a vessel for her unfinished vendetta. Elara collapsed, the book slamming shut beside her. Guards burst in, alerted by the magical disturbance, their faces twisted in accusation.
Intruder! Caesar!
One barked, but Elara's mind reeled from the curse's grip. She fled through shadowed corridors, her body already weakening as the malediction sapped her vitality. In the days that followed, her once promising life unraveled like frayed spell threads. At first, it was subtle. Her allies, fellow students she had bonded with over late-night study sessions, began to distance themselves. Lyrian, her closest friend from a high noble house, a boy with golden hair and an affinity for light magic, avoided her gaze in the dining hall.
Elara, rumors are spreading.
He confided one evening in the courtyard, where fountain waters shimmered under enchanted lanterns.
They say you tampered with dark arts. My family. They warned me to stay away.
His voice cracked, but Elara saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes, planted by whispers from envious rivals. Inner turmoil churned within her. How could this happen so quickly? She thought, clenching her fists until shadows danced unnaturally around her knuckles. The curse amplified her shadow powers, granting bursts of overpowered illusions that she struggled to control, but it also sowed paranoia. Professors, once mentors, now scrutinized her. Master Thorn, a stern elder with a beard like frost, pulled her aside after class.
Your aura is tainted, girl. Explain yourself.
Elara tried, but her words faltered, the curse twisting her tongue into half-truths that only deepened suspicions. Tensions escalated as social fissures cracked open. The Academy's class system, where nobles like Lyrian enjoyed private tutors and elite duels while commoners like Elara fought for scraps, fueled the betrayals. Jealous peers, sensing her vulnerability, spread lies that she had stolen the grimoire to sabotage the upcoming grand ritual, a ceremony where top students channeled collective mana to renew the Academy's wards. She's a threat, they murmured in gilded lounges, their voices carrying on winds of privilege. Elara's isolation deepened. She confided in a small circle, Mira, a fiery redhead with fire affinity from the lower ranks, and Kale, a brooding earth mage who shared her outsider status.
We stick together,
Mira declared during a clandestine meeting in the Academy's overgrown gardens, where bioluminescent flowers bloomed under moonlight.
Whatever this is, we'll face it.
Kale nodded, his deep voice rumbling like shifting stone.
Your powers are evolving. Use them.
But doubt gnawed at Elara.
What if the witch's curse poisons everything I touch?
She pondered silently, staring at her reflection in a pond, where her image rippled into distorted shadows. The climax built toward the grand ritual, held in the central amphitheater, a vast arena encircled by floating crystals that amplified spells. Hundreds gathered under a canopy of stars, the air humming with anticipation. Elara, despite her tarnished reputation, was selected for her prodigious talent, positioned at the ritual's core to weave shadow bindings.
This is my chance to prove them wrong,
she thought, steeling herself as mana flowed through her veins like liquid fire. But betrayal struck like a dagger in the dark. Lyrian, pressured by his family, who traced their lineage back to Thaloria's betrayers, sabotaged her channel.
Forgive me,
He whispered, his light magic clashing with her shadows, causing a catastrophic backlash. Mira hesitated, her flames flickering uncertainly, influenced by bribes from nobles.
I can't risk my future.
She admitted later in Elara's mind, a fabricated memory the curse implanted to heighten the pain. Kale, ever loyal, tried to intervene, but was overwhelmed by the elite guards. Chaos erupted. The ritual spiraled out of control, mana storms lashing the amphitheater, shattering crystals and hurling students into turmoil. Elara stood at the eye, her body racked by the curse's amplification. Shadows exploded from her, forming nightmarish tendrils that lashed out indiscriminately.
Stop this!
She cried, but her voice was drowned in screams. A noble heir, descendant of the ancient council, hurled a bolt of pure arcana at her, piercing her defenses. Pain bloomed in her chest, hot and final. As Elara fell to her knees, blood staining the ritual circle, her life crumbled utterly. The Academy's dark history echoed in her fading vision. The same patterns of betrayal that had doomed Thaloria now claiming her.
Why me?
She gasped, clutching at the wound. Allies scattered, their faces masks of feigned horror or genuine regret, but none came to her aid. The curse tightened its hold, her soul fraying at the edges. In those final moments, as her body faded into ethereal wisps, memories flooded in like a tidal wave. Fragments of past lives she never knew existed assaulted her. A warrior in a forgotten war, betrayed by comrades. A scholar poisoned by envious peers, a queen dethroned by her court. Each cycle mirrored Thaloria's pain, each death a step toward unclaimed revenge.
This isn't the end.
Elara realized, desperation mingling with confusion.
It's a prison of echoes.
Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the pooling blood.
I vow, I'll unravel this curse's origins. I'll break free.
But vows meant little against the inexorable pull. The world blurred, colors bleeding into gray. Thaloria's voice whispered once more, a ghostly echo.
The cycle begins anew.
Elara's soul tore from her form, hurtling through voids of time and shadow, rebirth beckoning in another era of the Academy's shadowed legacy. The amphitheater fell silent, her body dissolving into mist, leaving only the grimoire's faint glow amid the ruins, a harbinger of loops yet to come. The Academy, ever resilient, would rebuild, its secrets buried deeper. But Elara's essence, now adrift in the currents of reincarnation, carried the seeds of vengeance. In this new era, perhaps centuries removed, the dark history would resurface, with her at its center, stronger, wiser, but forever marked by the witch's fatal curse. In the dim haze of a rundown orphanage on the outskirts of Eldoria's capital, where the air reeked of damp stone and forgotten dreams, Elara's soul clawed its way back to consciousness. Her new body was frail, that of a 15-year-old girl named Sarah. Scrawny limbs, tangled ash-gray hair, and eyes dulled by years of neglect. But within this vessel stirred something ancient and unyielding. Hazy memories flickered like dying embers, the amphitheater's chaos, the sting of betrayal, the witch, Thaloria's venomous whisper. The cycle begins anew. Those words echoed in her mind, a phantom ache that made her gasp awake on a threadbare cot. The orphanage matron, a stern woman with calloused hands from scrubbing floors, loomed over her.
Up with you, girl. No lazing about. You've been feverish for days. Thought we'd lose another one to the streets.
Sarah, Elara, sat up, her heart pounding. The world felt both familiar and alien. Eldoria's magic system pulsed around her, a web of affinities tied to one's birthright, elemental forces like fire or water for the nobles, rarer arts like shadow or illusion for the gifted few. But orphans like her were dismissed as mana scarce, their latent potential buried under societal scorn. The class divide was merciless. Noble houses controlled the Arcane Citadel, funneling resources to their heirs, while commoners begged for scraps of education.
Who am I now?
Elara wondered inwardly, fragments of her previous life as the prodigy Voss, surfacing in disjointed bursts. The curse's grip tightened, a cold coil in her soul, promising endless loops until revenge sated Thaloria's ghost. Driven by those nebulous recollections, Elara resolved to return to the Academy. She scavenged what little she could, a tattered cloak, a few copper coins pilfered from the matron's purse, and fled into the bustling streets of the capital. Cobblestone paths wound under towering spires, merchants hawking enchanted trinkets that glowed with minor spells.
I must enroll,
she thought, her steps quickening toward the citadel's imposing gates. But as an orphan, entry required cunning. Forging a false identity as Leah Thorne, a distant relative of a fallen minor house, She presented herself at the admissions hall. The registrar, a bored mage with ink-stained fingers, eyed her skeptically.
Latent potential? We'll test you, girl. Fail, and it's back to the gutters.
The mana assessment chamber was a sterile dome of crystal walls that hummed with diagnostic runes. As Elara placed her hand on the orb, a surge erupted, not the controlled flow of her past life, but a wild pulse laced with the curse's energy. Shadows writhed around her fingers, illusory whispers teasing the edges of reality. The proctor's eyes widened. Unstable, but potent. Shadow affinity with hints of something darker. You're in, but watch yourself. The elites don't take kindly to upstarts. Relief washed over Elara, mingled with wariness. This body is weaker, but the memories, they'll guide me. Life at the academy unfolded like a treacherous game of arcane chess. The grand halls echoed with the laughter of elite students, their robes embroidered with family crests denoting high affinities, blazing phoenixes for fire mages, swirling vortices for wind wielders. Elara, as Leah, kept her head down, her orphan origins a secret that invited sneers. Rivalries simmered everywhere. Duels in the training yards where nobles settled scores with controlled blasts of magic. Hidden agendas whispered in alcoves about alliances for the upcoming house tournaments. Stay invisible, Elara reminded herself, observing from the shadows. She befriended a few misfits, a bookish boy named Finn with earth magic, who mumbled about noble corruption, and a spirited girl, Arya, whose wind affinity made her a target for bullies. But the witch's influence crept in subtly, like ink bleeding through parchment. Nights brought nightmares, vivid dreams of Thaloria's betrayal, her crimson hair whipping in a storm of mana as traitors closed in. Elara awoke drenched in sweat, her room in the dormitory, a cramped space shared with other lowborns, filled with an unnatural chill. It's her, she realized, clutching her chest where the curse burned. Power surges followed, unexplained bursts during classes. In a basic illusion lesson, her simple mirage spell twisted into a horde of shadowy phantoms, startling the instructor.
Control it, Leah! Control it, Leah!
He barked. But Elara felt the curse's echo, amplifying her latent magic into something forbidden, raw. Determined to harness this, Elara sought solitude in the Academy's forgotten corners. The Undercroft, a labyrinth of dusty storerooms beneath the main towers, became her secret haven. There, amid cobwebs and flickering torchlight, she honed her skills. Drawing on hazy memories from her prior life, she practiced forbidden spells, shadow veils that rendered her invisible, illusionary decoys that mimicked voices and forms. Each incantation echoed the curse's energy, a dark resonance that made her veins thrum with power. This is Thaloria's gift, or trap, she pondered during one session, sweat beading on her brow as she wove a tendril of darkness into a razor-sharp blade. The spells came easier now, her orphan body's latent potential blooming under the malediction's influence. But with each surge, the nightmares intensified, whispers urging revenge against the betrayer's descendants. One afternoon, amid the bustling courtyard where students bartered spell components, crystals humming with stored mana, herbs infused with elemental essence, Elara had a chance encounter that peeled back layers of conspiracy. Professor Eldrick, a gaunt man with piercing silver eyes and a robe adorned with arcane symbols, bumped into her near the fountain. His affinity was for divination, rumored to see threads of fate, but whispers among students painted him as suspicious, tied to the Academy's shadowy dealings.
Watch your step, girl,
He said, his voice a low rasp, but his gaze lingered, as if peering into her soul. Elara felt a jolt. The curse reacted, a faint glow in her shadows that he seemed to notice. Later, in a quiet alcove, he approached her again.
You carry an old aura, Leah Thorne, one that doesn't match your humble origins.
His words dripped with implication, hinting at knowledge of forbidden arts. Elara's heart raced.
What do you mean, Professor?
She asked, feigning innocence, but inwardly, alarms blared.
The Academy has secrets.
He replied, leaning closer.
Witches of old, curses that linger. If you seek truth, meet me in the archives at midnight.
His breath smelling of bitter herbs. He slipped away, leaving Elara torn. Is he an ally or another betrayer, she thought, the curse stirring doubts like poison in her veins? Tensions rose as the house tournaments loomed, events where students vied for prestige, their performances dictating social standing and access to advanced tomes. Elara, navigating the elite's web, allied tentatively with Finn and Arya.
We can win this,
Arya said during a strategy session in the gardens, where enchanted vines bloomed with luminescent flowers. Her wind magic whipped leaves into playful eddies. Finn nodded, shaping a small golem from dirt.
The nobles rig it, but with your shadows, Leah.
Elara smiled faintly, but the power surges worried her, uncontrolled bursts that could expose her. The first betrayal struck like a serpent's fang. During a preliminary duel against a noble team led by Vance, a smug heir with fire affinity from a house descended from Thaloria's era, Elara's group positioned themselves in the arena, a circular pit ringed by warded barriers.
Stick to the plan,
she whispered to her allies. As the match began, Elara unleashed a shadow veil, cloaking Finn for a surprise attack, but Arya faltered, her wind gust meant to distract Vance veering off course, exposing Elara instead. Flames roared toward her, scorching her arm. Elara gasped, dodging with an illusory decoy.
Arya, what?
In the chaos, Finn's golem crumbled prematurely, his earth magic sabotaged. Vance laughed, his team closing in.
Pathetic lowborns, know your place.
But Elara's eyes locked on Arya, who averted her gaze, a flush of guilt betraying her. Later, in the infirmary where healers mended burns with soothing light spells, the truth emerged. Arya confessed, tears streaming.
They threatened me, Leah. The nobles said they'd expel my family if I didn't throw the match. I'm sorry.
Her voice broke, but Elara felt ice in her core. Memories of past betrayals flooded back. Lyrian, Mira, the ritual's fall. Rage ignited, fueled by the curse's whisper.
Revenge! Claim it!
Elara's powers surged uncontrollably, shadows lashing out and shattering a nearby vial.
You sold us out for scraps!
She hissed, her voice echoing with Thaloria's timbre. Finn, bandaged beside her, looked on in shock.
Leah, your eyes, they're glowing.
The betrayal cut deep, intensifying the class tensions. Nobles preying on the weak, hidden agendas ensuring their dominance. Elara stormed out, her thirst for revenge growing like a storm cloud.
This cycle won't break me,
she vowed inwardly, the witch's influence twisting her pain into purpose.
I'll uncover the conspiracies, dismantle their world from the shadows.
As night fell, the Academy's towers cast long silhouettes under the twin moons. Elara retreated to the Undercroft. There, she pushed her training further, mastering a curse-echoed spell, a phantom bind that drained mana from foes. Exhaustion clawed at her, but the betrayal's sting drove her on.
Professor Eldrick, he might hold keys,
she mused, weighing the risk. The encounter hinted at deeper plots. Perhaps the Academy's elite perpetuated Thaloria's downfall, their bloodlines guarding secrets in the archives. Subtle clues mounted. Another nightmare where Thaloria's spirit appeared, urging,
"Seek the traitor's heirs."
Power surges during meditation revealed visions of hidden societies within the Citadel, worshipping old curses for power. Elara's orphan status amplified her isolation, the social chasm widening.
I was a prodigy once,
she reflected bitterly.
Now I'm nothing, but that makes me dangerous.
The chapter's tensions peaked in a confrontation, spurred by Arya's treachery. Elara shadowed Vance's group to an illicit meeting in the Forbidden Wing. Hidden by her veil, she overheard plots.
The orphan's unstable. Use her as bait for the tournament's ritual. Strengthen our houses.
Fury boiled over. Emerging from shadows, she unleashed a surge, illusions trapping them in nightmarish loops.
You think you control everything?
She snarled, her voice amplified by the curse. Vance blasted fire, but Elara's forbidden spell countered, siphoning his mana until he collapsed. Guards arrived, drawn by the commotion.
Intruders!
They shouted, but Elara slipped away, the betrayal crystallizing her path. This is just the beginning, she thought, retreating to her dorm as dawn broke. The witch's influence lingered, nightmares promising more cycles, but Elara's revenge thirst burned brighter, a flame forged in shadows, ready to consume the Academy's corrupt heart. In the shadowed bowels of the Arcane Citadel's forbidden library, where forbidden tomes whispered secrets to those daring enough to listen, Elara, still cloaked in her false identity as Leah Thorne, ventured deeper than ever before. The air hung heavy with the musty scent of centuries-old vellum and the faint crackle of dormant spells, wards flickering like dying stars along the arch ceilings. Towering shelves groaned under the weight of chained volumes, their bindings etched with runes that pulsed in warning. This sanctum was off-limits to all but the highest echelons of the Academy's elite, a repository of knowledge from Eldoria's turbulent past, where magic's raw essence had once flowed unchecked before the nobles imposed their rigid systems. Affinities were categorized and controlled, shadows for the cunning, illusions for the deceptive, both often relegated to lesser mages due to their unpredictable nature, while elemental powers like fire and light dominated the noble curricula, symbolizing purity and might. Elara's heart thrummed with a mix of trepidation and resolve, her ash-gray hair matted with sweat from sneaking past the patrolling golems, stone sentinels animated by earth magic, their eyes glowing with detection enchantments. Hazy memories from her previous cycles guided her, fragments of lives where she had glimpsed this library's depths.
The artifact, it's here,
she thought, her inner voice a steady anchor amid the curse's swirling doubts. The witch Thaloria's influence lingered like a phantom touch, urging her onward, slipping through a concealed alcove revealed by a subtle power surge. The curse's energy reacting to hidden seals. She found it, the Amulet of Ebon Vale, an ancient relic suspended in a crystal case, its obsidian core swirling with trapped shadows. With trembling hands, Elara channeled a thread of her latent magic, the shadows in her veins responding with unnatural vigor. The case shattered in a silent implosion, and as she clasped the amulet, a torrent of power flooded her soul. It amplified her reincarnated abilities, merging the echoes of past lives into a symphony of overpowered control. Shadows bent to her will, like obedient servants. Coiling into tangible forms, illusions sprang forth with lifelike precision, deceiving even the keenest senses. Pain lanced through her as the artifact bonded, visions of Thaloria's era flashing, the witch crafting it in defiance, her powers unbound before the noble's betrayal. Elara gasped, collapsing to her knees amid scattered shards.
This strength, it's intoxicating,
she murmured inwardly, feeling her mana reserves swell beyond mortal limits. But the curse twisted it, a dark undercurrent promising that such power came at a cost. Eternal vigilance against the cycle's pull. Emboldened, Elara sought to test her newfound might in the Academy's underbelly. The underground duels, illicit arenas hidden in the catacombs where students wagered monocrystals and reputations. The social chasm fueled these clashes, nobles honing their edges against each other, while outcasts like her fought for survival, their affinities often dismissed as inferior. Dim torchlight flickered over packed dirt floors, the air thick with sweat and ozone from clashing spells. Spectators, a mix of hooded figures from all ranks, cheered from the shadows. Elara entered as Leah, her frail orphan frame drawing smirks from opponents who underestimated her. Her first challenger was Garrick, a burly second year with Earth affinity, his noble crest gleaming on his sleeve.
A scrawny lowborn.
Summoning jagged stone spikes from the ground. Elara's eyes narrowed, the amulet warm against her chest. With a flick of her wrist, she unleashed an illusionary decoy, a perfect replica of herself charging forward, while shadows coiled around Garrick's legs, rooting him in place. He swung wildly at the phantom, his spikes shattering harmlessly against air.
What sorcery?
He grunted, panic flashing in his eyes as Elara's true form emerged from the gloom, a shadow blade slicing through his defenses. He yielded, crumpling in defeat, the crowd murmuring in awe.
She's no ordinary orphan.
One whispered. Victory after victory followed. Against a wind mage who underestimated her speed, Elara wove illusions of gale force storms, disorienting him while shadows drained his stamina.
Yield!
She commanded, her voice echoing with amplified authority, the loser's face pale with shock. Each duel sharpened her control, the artifact granting overpowered feats, shadows that absorbed attacks, illusions that mimicked entire battlefields. But with triumph came clarity, memories from prior lives crystallizing like frost on glass. She saw Thaloria not as a vengeful specter, but as the Academy's founder, a visionary witch who built the Citadel to democratize magic, scorning the corrupt nobles who hoarded power through bloodline pacts. Betrayed by those same elites, her legacy twisted into myth, her curses born of justice denied. She was a pioneer, Elara realized during a post-duel respite, leaning against a damp wall, her breath ragged. And they buried her truth to maintain their thrones. These revelations stirred a deeper purpose. Elara began forming tentative alliances with outcast students, those marginalized by the Academy's class system. Commoners with untapped potentials, shunned for lacking noble patronage. In a hidden alcove of the gardens, where overgrown vines shielded them from prying eyes, she met with a small group. Finn, the bookish earth mage from her earlier days, his hands still calloused from menial tasks. Arya, redeemed somewhat from her past betrayal but wary, and newcomers like Jax, a sly illusionist with street smarts, and Lena, a healer whose light affinity was deemed impure due to her mixed heritage.
We need each other,
Elara said softly, her voice carrying the weight of cycles endured. She shared glimpses of her curse, nightmares of endless deaths, power surges tied to an ancient wrong, without full disclosure, lest they fear her as a harbinger. Finn nodded, his eyes lighting up.
I've heard tales of forbidden artifacts. If you're cursed, maybe we can help unravel it.
Jack smirked, conjuring a faint mirage for emphasis.
Strength in numbers. The nobles crush us alone.
Lena, hesitant, added.
But why trust us? We've all been burned before.
Elara's inner turmoil surged, the curse whispering doubts of betrayal, but she pushed through.
Because I've seen what division does. Together, we challenge their agendas.
Bonds formed tentatively, sealed with shared training sessions, where Elara demonstrated shadow tricks, her overpowered control inspiring awe and envy. Yet, she withheld the Reincarnation's full horror, fearing it would shatter their fragile unity. The rival clan's threat emerged like a storm on the horizon. The House of Vorath, descendants of Thaloria's ancient betrayers, sensed Elara's rising aura through their divination networks, a web of spies and scrying orbs that monitored upstarts. Led by Darius Vorath, a calculating senior with arcane affinity for binding spells, they viewed her as a disruption to their dominance. Whispers in the halls turned to plots.
That orphan Leah. Her shadows reek of old curses. Eliminate her before she exposes our lineage.
The assassination attempt struck during a routine expedition into the enchanted forests bordering the Academy. A mandatory trial for mid-tier students to harvest rare herbs infused with wild mana. Towering trees with bark, like armored scales, loomed, their leaves shimmering with illusory veils that hid predators. The air buzzed with latent magic, ecosystems where affinities clashed, shadow beasts prowling the underbrush, illusionary mirages leading wanderers astray. Elara's group ventured deep, her alliances providing cover. Finn stabilizing paths with earth barriers, Jack scouting with decoys. Ambush came swift and silent. Masked assailants from House Vorath emerged from the foliage, their cloaks warded against detection.
It's a cursed one!
Their leader barked, unleashing binding chains of arcane energy that snaked toward Elara. Panic erupted. Lena screamed as a bolt grazed her, her healing light flaring defensively. Jax's illusions multiplied the group, confusing the attackers, but Darius himself stepped forward, his eyes glowing with malevolent intent. You meddle in forces beyond you, lowborn, he sneered, his spell coiling like a serpent around Elara's throat. Heart pounding, Elara tapped the amulet's power. Shadows exploded outward, forming a dome that absorbed the bindings.
Run!
She yelled to her allies, illusions splintering into decoys that drew fire. The chase ignited, a high-stakes pursuit through the enchanted woods. Trees shifted treacherously, roots tripping pursuers, but the assassins pressed on, their numbers bolstered by summoned familiars, spectral hounds with jaws of void energy. Elara dodged a slashing claw, her overpowered illusions creating false paths that led enemies into thorny traps. They're relentless, she thought, breath burning in her lungs, memories of past deaths flashing, poisoned ambushes, ritual betrayals. Finn hurled earthen spikes to slow them, but one assassin pierced his shoulder, blood staining the moss.
Leave me,
he grunted, but Elara refused, shadows lifting him as they fled. Darius closed in, his binding spell grazing her side, a searing pain that sapped her strength. The forest's enchantments amplified the drama, mirage pits opening beneath feet, vines lashing like whips. Elara countered with a surge, illusions of Thaloria's wrath manifesting. Ghostly witches howling, distracting the clan. Barely surviving a cliffside tumble, she channeled the artifact's peak, shadows forming a razor whirlwind that felled two assailants. They escaped to a hidden glade, the Academy's wards shimmering in the distance, collapsed amid glowing fungi. Elara tended wounds with Lena's help, her body bruised and mana depleted. The attack's failure fueled her fury, the rival clan's desperation revealing their fear of her uncovering Thaloria's truth. They perpetuate the cycle, she whispered, eyes hardening. Memories clarified further, the witch scorned for empowering the masses, nobles corrupting her foundation into a tool of oppression. Allies gathered close, their tentative bonds strengthened by shared peril.
We'll dismantle them!
Elara swore inwardly, the curse's thirst aligning with her own.
Piece by piece, until the betrayers fall.
As dawn broke, filtering through enchanted leaves in hues of ethereal gold, Elara rose, the amulet's power a constant hum. The forest's whispers echoed her vow, the cycle's forces now in her sights, a path of shadows and illusions leading to reckoning. As Elara's prowess with the amulet of Ebon Vale propelled her through the Arcane Citadel's hierarchies, the Academy's rigid structures began to bend ever so slightly in her favor. No longer the overlooked orphan Leah Thorne, she ascended the ranks with a quiet ferocity that turned heads among the elite. The system of merits, where students accumulated points through duels, trials, and scholarly pursuits, favored those with noble backing, but Elara's overpowered shadows and illusions shattered that norm. In lecture halls aglow with floating orbs of mana light, professors nodded approvingly as she demonstrated advanced weaves. Shadow tendrils that mimicked elemental strikes, illusions so vivid they fooled even divination spells. Yet, the class tensions simmered beneath. Nobles whispered of her unnatural rise, their affinities for fire and light symbolizing their supposed superiority, while shadow users like her were stereotyped as deceitful, prone to the dark taint that plagued Eldoria's history of rogue mages. Her closest companion in this ascent was Jax, the sly illusionist from her alliance of outcasts, whose street-honed wits complemented her growing might. With tousled dark hair and eyes that sparkled with mischief, Jax had become her confidant, sharing late-night strategy sessions in the dormitory's hidden nooks.
"We've got them on the ropes, Leah,"
he'd say with a grin, conjuring playful mirages to lighten the mood. Their bond deepened through shared hardships. The scorn of highborns, the grind of proving worth in a system stacked against them. Elara trusted him implicitly, glimpses of her curse shared in hushed tones, the nightmares, the surges.
You're like a brother I never had,
she admitted once, under the glow of enchanted lanterns in the gardens. But the witch Thaloria's malediction lurked, a subtle poison that amplified doubts, making every alliance feel fragile. As the grand tournament approached, a spectacle that defined Academy standings, where houses vied in arena combats for prestige and artifacts, Elara's star burned brighter. The event was a microcosm of Eldoria's magic society. Nobles paraded in ornate robes, their crests flaring with affinity symbols, while outcasts like her fought for scraps of recognition. Points from victories influenced everything, from access to restricted tomes to alliances with powerful mages outside the Citadel. Elara and her team, Jax, Finn, Lena, and a few others, trained relentlessly in the Undercroft, her amplified powers turning drills into displays of dominance.
With you leading, we could topple the Vorath house,
Finn rumbled, his earth magic fortifying their defenses. Lena's healing light mended strains, her impure affinity a badge of their shared marginalization. The tournament dawned under stormy skies. The central arena, a colossal coliseum of tiered stone seats, encircling a vast pit warded by shimmering barriers. Thousands gathered, students, faculty, visiting archmages, the air electric with anticipation, and the hum of preparatory spells. Banners of noble houses fluttered, emblazoned with phoenixes and vortices, while Elara's group bore a makeshift emblem, a shadowed veil. As preliminaries unfolded, Elara dominated, her illusions creating phantom armies that bewildered foes, shadows binding them in inescapable grips. Cheers rose for the underdogs, cracks forming in the Academy's facade of noble supremacy.
This is our moment,
Jax whispered during a break, clapping her shoulder, his eyes alight with what she mistook for loyalty. But ties to the witch's ancient enemies simmered beneath Jax's facade, descended from a minor branch of the betrayers who had doomed Thaloria, those corrupt nobles who twisted her founding vision into a tool of control. Jax had been groomed in secret to uphold their legacy. His alliance with Elara was a calculated infiltration, his revelations of street smarts masking espionage for House Vorath. As their team advanced to the semi-finals against a rival squad, the sabotage unfolded with chilling precision. In the arena's heart, amid roaring crowds, the match ignited. Opponents from an allied noble house hurled elemental barrages, fireballs scorching the air, wind blades slicing through. Elara countered with a shadow dome, illusions multiplying her team into dozens.
Now, Jax, flank them!
She commanded, trust fueling her strategy. But Jax hesitated, his illusion meant to disorient, veering instead to expose her position. A deliberate flicker, and the dome cracked, enemies zeroing in.
Jax, what are you?
Elara's voice caught as realization dawned. His eyes met hers, a flash of regret buried under resolve.
I'm sorry, Leah, but blood runs thicker than shadows?
With a subtle gesture, he unleashed a hidden spell, a binding illusion laced with Vorath sigils, tying her shadows against her. Heartbreak ripped through Elara like a storm, the curse amplifying the emotional torrent into raw fury.
You, traitor!
She whispered, tears stinging as memories of past betrayals overlapped, allies turning in prior cycles, each knife in the back, an echo of Thaloria's pain. The arena blurred, her closest companion's revelation shattering the fragile trust she'd rebuilt. In that instant, the amulet pulsed wildly, the curse's energy surging unchecked. She unleashed a torrent of cursed magic, shadows erupting like a volcanic plume, illusions warping reality into nightmarish chaos. The battlefield transformed. Phantoms of Thaloria's era materialized, spectral witches screaming vengeance, nobles in ancient garb fleeing illusory flames. Shadows coiled into monstrous forms, lashing at friends and foes alike, the arena's wards straining under the onslaught. Spectators panicked as illusions bled into the stands, making seats appear to crumble, crowds stampeding in terror.
Stop her!
A noble heir shouted, but Elara's power overwhelmed. A cursed wave that drained mana from all nearby, leaving mages gasping. Jax staggered back, his sabotage backfiring as shadows ensnared him.
This wasn't supposed to.
He gasped, but her heartbroken glare silenced him. The incident exposed the Academy's cracks. Wards failing revealed hidden corruptions, like siphoned mana lines favoring nobles, drawing scrutiny from archmages in the VIP tiers, their faces twisting in alarm.
Orderlies and professors rushed in, spells clashing to contain the maelstrom. Dean Valeria, a stern woman with light affinity symbolizing the elite's purity, bellowed commands.
Subdue the girl! Her magic's tainted!
Elara collapsed amid the ruins, the outburst sapping her strength, shadows receding like ebbing tides. Jax was dragged away, his ties to Vorath whispered among the chaos, the facade of unity crumbling as outcasts eyed nobles with newfound suspicion.
What have I done?
Elara thought, curled on the scorched ground, emotions raw, betrayal's sting mingling with the curse's vindictive satisfaction. In the aftermath, confined to the infirmary, a sterile wing of crystal beds and healing auras, Elara faced isolation. Powerful mages interrogated her, their divination probes brushing her soul, sensing the curse's ancient taint but unable to pinpoint it.
Your rise was too swift.
One archmage intoned, his voice laced with accusation.
Allies like Jax, perhaps you drew the wrong sword.
The scrutiny intensified class tensions. Nobles demanded purges of unstable lowborns, while outcasts rallied in whispers. The incident highlighting the system's biases, diseases of corruption like mana-hoarding pacts that afflicted the elite, weakening the Academy's foundations. Alone in her recovery, Elara delved into journals from her past lives, artifacts smuggled from the library's depths during her earlier explorations. Hidden in her quarters, a sparse room with a single window overlooking the misty mountains, she pored over faded pages under a dim shadow orb. The entries clarified memories. One life as a scholar, noting Thaloria's betrayal by her lover, a charismatic mage who sold her out for noble favor, twisting her free magic ethos into controlled hierarchies. He whispered promises of eternity, a journal read, only to bind her in chains of deceit. Piecing it together, Elara saw parallels. Jax's bond echoing that ancient treachery, the witch's curse, a perpetual mirror. Internal monologues tormented her through sleepless nights.
How can I trust again?
She agonized, pacing the room, shadows flickering erratically with her turmoil.
Destiny chains me to this cycle, betrayal after betrayal, like a cursed wheel. Am I doomed to repeat Thaloria's fate, or can I shatter it?
Doubts clawed at her. Was Jax's affection ever real, or merely a tool? The curse whispered temptations of isolation, urging vengeance over vulnerability. Trust is a fool's gamble, it seemed to say, amplifying her heartbreak into a gnawing void. Emotions swirled, rage at the system that bred such traitors, sorrow for lost companionship, a flickering hope that her alliances could endure. The poisoned ambush struck without warning, a culmination of the exposed cracks. As Elara ventured to the archives under cover of night, seeking more journals to unravel the curse, shadows cloaked her path. But Vorath agents, emboldened by the tournament's fallout, lay in wait. In a narrow corridor lined with glowing runes, a figure emerged, a hooded assassin, dagger glinting with a virulent toxin derived from Shadowbane, a rare herb that disrupted affinities, causing systemic failure in mages.
For the old blood,
he hissed, lunging with preternatural speed. Elara's illusions flared, creating decoys, but the poison-tipped blade grazed her arm in the fray. Fire bloomed in her veins, the toxin spreading like wildfire, sapping her overpowered strength. She fought back, shadows binding the assassin, but more converged, a coordinated strike to silence the upstart who threatened their secrets.
You can't escape the cycle,
one taunted, their spells clashing in bursts of light and dark. Weakened, Elara staggered into an alcove, the poison-inducing hallucinations, Jax's face mocking her, Thaloria's lover laughing from the shadows. As her vision dimmed, body convulsing on the cold stone, the chapter's torment peaked.
Not again,
she thought desperately, doubts crystallizing into defiance.
I'll return, stronger.
The curse activated, her soul fraying as life ebbed, pulling her toward another reincarnation. Allies like Finn would mourn, the Academy's facade further fractured, but Elara's essence hurtled into the void, the betrayal's scar fueling the endless wheel. In the opulent halls of the Eldoria Academy, where the air hummed with a subtle crackle of latent magic and the whispers of ancient lineages, Elara awoke to a torrent of memories that flooded her mind like a dam bursting under the weight of centuries. Born anew into the body of Lady Elara Voss, the pampered daughter of Duke Voss, one of the realm's most influential nobles, she had always felt an inexplicable pull toward the arcane. But now, as the first rays of dawn pierced the stained glass windows of her lavish dormitory, painting the room in hues of crimson and gold, the veil shattered. Fragments of past lives cascaded through her consciousness, cycles of betrayal, death, and rebirth, each one a loop in the cursed wheel of fate imposed by the ancient witch's curse. She was no ordinary noble girl. She was the reincarnation of the great witch Althea, condemned to relive her downfall over and over, her soul trapped in an eternal cycle by those who had once sworn loyalty, only to stab her in the back. Elara's eyes snapped open, her heart pounding as the cumulative knowledge of dozens of lifetimes coalesced into perfect clarity.
This time, it's different,
she thought, her inner voice a steely whisper amid the chaos. In previous cycles, the memories had trickled in piecemeal, leaving her vulnerable, a pawn in the games of the powerful. But now, with innate sorcery pulsing through her veins, a rare gift amplified by her noble bloodline, she remembered everything. Spells long forgotten by the world, forbidden arts that bent reality itself, political intrigues that spanned empires. The Voss family's sorcery was tied to the elemental forces, but hers was something more, a fusion of witch's essence and noble heritage, making her an overpowered anomaly in a society rigidly divided by magical aptitude. Commoners scraped by with basic charms, while nobles hoarded advanced grimoires. But Elara's power transcended classes, a threat to the very hierarchy that kept the betrayer's descendants in power. Clutching the silken sheets, Elara rose, her slender frame belying the storm within. She gazed into the ornate mirror, her emerald eyes glowing faintly with ethereal light.
They thought they could erase me, seal my soul in oblivion. But knowledge is the ultimate weapon, and mine has compounded like interest in a dragon's hoard.
The curse, she recalled, stemmed from the great betrayal centuries ago. Althea had allied with a coalition of mages to overthrow a tyrannical emperor, only for her supposed comrades to turn on her, fearing her dominance. They had woven a ritual to fracture her soul across reincarnations, ensuring she never fully awakened. Their bloodlines, the houses of Thorn, Blackwood, and others, now dominated the academy and high society, their wealth built on stolen secrets. But Elara's full recall changed everything. She was no longer a victim, but a predator, ready to infiltrate and dismantle. The academy buzzed with anticipation for the grand soiree, a high society event where nobles paraded their heirs like prize stallions, forging alliances under the guise of dances and feasts. Elara, dressed in a gown of midnight velvet embroidered with silver runes that subtly amplified her aura, her hair cascading in waves that hid the faint scar of her rebirth, a mark only visible to those attuned to curses. As she stepped into the grand ballroom, chandeliers floating on levitation spells cast a kaleidoscope of light across marble floors etched with protective wards. Laughter echoed from clusters of students, their conversations laced with veiled barbs about blood purity and magical prowess.
Look at her, the Voss girl,
murmured a group of Thorn descendants, their eyes narrowing.
Thinks her family's elemental tricks make her superior. Pathetic.
Elara moved like a shadow among them, her senses heightened by recalled spells. She wove through the crowd, engaging in polite banter that masked her probing.
Lady Thorn, your family's fire manipulation is legendary,
she said with a disarming smile to Eliza Thorn, a haughty blonde whose ancestor had driven the first dagger into Althea's back. Eliza preened, sipping from a goblet of enchanted wine.
Indeed, it's in our blood, unlike some who rely on luck.
But as Elara touched her hand in a feigned gesture of camaraderie, she channeled a subtle memory probe spell, a technique from her third cycle, drawing on psychic threads invisible to all but the most adept. Images flashed in Elara's mind. Eliza's family archives, hidden rituals echoing the betrayal, a lineage tainted by stolen witches' blood.
Got you,
Elara thought, her pulse quickening with vengeful fire. She unmasked another, Lord Blackwood's son, during a waltz, his arrogant grip on her waist betraying the same corrupt aura.
Your earthbinding spells are impressive,
she complimented, all while siphoning echoes of his family's secrets. Plans to reinforce the soul-sealing ritual, whispers of a gathering storm. The unmasking fueled her resolve, but power demanded refinement. Away from prying eyes, in the Academy's forbidden training grounds, ancient ruins shrouded by illusion barriers, Elara embarked on intense sessions that pushed her to godlike proficiency. Moonlight filtered through crumbling arches as she stood alone, the wind carrying the scent of wild herbs and latent magic.
In my first cycle, I was weak, reliant on allies, no more.
In my first cycle, I was weak, reliant on allies, no more. She began with basic elemental weaves, her hands glowing as she summoned flames that danced like serpents, then froze them into crystalline shards with a flick of her wrist. Hours blurred into montages of relentless practice, sweat beading on her brow as she levitated boulders the size of carriages, her muscles aching but her spirit unyielding. She delved into forbidden arts, recalling shadow manipulation from her 7th life. Tendrils of darkness coiling around her like loyal guardians, capable of strangling foes from afar. As dawn broke, she escalated to fusion spells, blending noble sorcery with witches' curses. A vortex of wind and lightning erupted around her, tearing at the ruins but leaving her unscathed in the eye of the storm.
This is what they fear,
she inwardly growled, her power surging like a tidal wave. She practiced healing weaves intertwined with decay, mending a wilted flower only to wither it again, symbolizing her control over life and death. The training wasn't just physical, it was emotional warfare against her own doubts. Flashes of past deaths haunted her, burned at stakes, poisoned in courts, but each spell mastered was a defiance, turning trauma into triumph. By the end, her spells reached godlike levels, illusions that could deceive entire armies, telekinetic blasts that shattered stone, and aura shields impenetrable to mortal magic. She was no longer just Elara Voss, she was the apex predator. Her cumulative knowledge, an arsenal that outstripped even the Academy's Archmages. Amid this ascent, a new variable entered her world, the mysterious transfer student, Kairos Lune. He arrived unannounced during a lecture on arcane history, his entrance drawing gasps from the class. Tall and enigmatic, with silver hair that seemed to shimmer under the classroom's floating orbs and eyes like stormy seas, he carried an air of quiet intensity. Whispers rippled through the room. Rumors of his origins from the distant Shadow Isles, where curses and reincarnations were not myths, but daily realities. Elara felt it immediately, a prickling sensation, as if her cursed aura resonated with his presence.
Who is he?
She wondered, her gaze locking onto his from across the room. He met her eyes without flinching, a faint smile playing on his lips, as if he saw through her noble facade to the witch beneath. The romantic subplot ignited subtly, like embers catching in dry tinder. During a group study session in the Academy's lush gardens, where enchanted vines bloomed year-round under growth spells, Kairos approached her. He said,
Lady Voss, your insights on curse mechanics were enlightening.
His voice a low timbre that sent an unfamiliar warmth through her. Elara tensed, her inner monologue racing.
He senses it. The aura, the remnants of Althea's curse that clings to my soul like invisible chains. But why doesn't he recoil?
She replied cautiously.
Merely observations from old texts. And you, Master Lune? Your knowledge seems personal.
As they conversed, sparks flew. Not just metaphorical, but literal flickers of magic where their auras brushed. He shared tales of the Shadow Isles, where souls cycled through lives unbound by noble hierarchies, challenging the class tension she despised.
In my homeland, power isn't inherited, it's earned through trials of the spirit,
he explained, his hand brushing hers accidentally, igniting a jolt that made her breath catch. Their encounters deepened, laced with emotional tension, in the library's shadowed alcoves, surrounded by towering shelves of grimoires that whispered forgotten spells. Kairos confessed his sensitivity to auras.
Yours is unique, cursed, yet radiant, like a star trapped in eclipse.
Elara's heart wavered. In cycles past, romance had been a weakness, leading to betrayal.
I can't afford distractions,
she thought, yet his presence stirred long-buried longings for alliance, for someone who understood the weight of reincarnation. They sparred in secret, his shadow-based powers complementing her elemental fury, blades of darkness clashing against her light barriers, their laughter echoing as sweat glistened on their skin.
You're holding back?
He teased, dodging a fireball with graceful ease.
And you're too perceptive.
She retorted, her cheeks flushing not from exertion but from the growing pull between them. The twist unraveled during a moonlit rendezvous in the Academy's observatory, where telescopes pierced the veil of stars, revealing constellations tied to fate's cycles. As Elara confided fragments of her past, veiled as hypotheticals, Kairos's expression shifted.
Elara? Althea!
He whispered, his voice cracking with recognition. She froze, power coiling defensively.
How do you know that name?
He revealed the truth. He was the reincarnation of Thorn's ally. No, Althea's true ally, the mage Lucian, who had died defending her during the betrayal.
I've searched through cycles for you,
he admitted, his eyes glistening.
My soul bound to yours by loyalty, not curse. I sensed your aura because it's intertwined with mine.
Emotions surged, relief, joy, but also fear.
You're the one who tried to break the cycle.
She realized, memories aligning. Their embrace was electric, auras merging in a swirl of light and shadow, but it intensified the drama. Now, with an ally, her vengeance carried higher stakes, for losing him would shatter her anew. As revelations settled, the stakes escalated brutally. Whispers in high society pointed to a clandestine ritual brewing among the betrayer's descendants, the Thorn and Blackwood heirs, unmasked by Elara's probes, plotted in the Academy's undercroft. A labyrinth of catacombs warded against intruders, where ancient altars pulsed with sealing magic. The ritual aimed to seal her soul forever, drawing on blood oaths from the original betrayal to fracture her essence into oblivion, ending the cycles permanently.
I'm awakening,
Elara thought, her resolve hardening like forged steel. With Kairos at her side, they infiltrated the gathering, cloaked in illusion spells she had perfected in training. 42. The confrontation was a maelstrom of drama and power. Descending into the damp, torchlit depths, the air thick with incense and malice, Elara and Kairos overheard the chant.
My blood betrayed, my soul enslaved.
Eliza Thorne stood at the altar, a crystal orb glowing with captured essences, fragments of past reincarnations.
The witch's heir must fall,
she declared, her voice echoing with ancestral hatred. Elara burst forth, her godlike spells unleashing havoc. Flames erupted in controlled bursts, shattering wards. Shadows from Kairos ensnared the ritualists, their screams piercing the gloom.
You think you can seal me? I've lived your treachery 100 times!
Elara roared, her voice amplified by sonic weaves. Inner turmoil raged, flashes of past pains, but fueled by Kairos' presence.
For us?
He urged, blocking a curse aimed at her. The battle intensified, spells clashing in a symphony of destruction. Elara leveled up mid-fight, drawing on cumulative knowledge to counter the sealing orb, a fusion of decay and healing that unraveled its core. Eliza lunged with fire whips, but Elara's telekinesis hurled her back, unmasking the full extent of the betrayal's legacy. A disease of corruption plaguing noble bloodlines, twisting their magic into tools of oppression.
Your ancestors stole my power, but it ends here,
Elara declared, her aura flaring to eclipse the chamber's light. Kairos revealed his own twist, channeling Lucian's ancient bond to amplify her, their combined force shattering the orb in a blinding explosion. As the ritual collapsed, the betrayers fled, their plans thwarted, but the victory was bittersweet. Elara's soul intact, yet the cycle's shadow lingered. In the aftermath, as they emerged into the night, stars wheeling above like witnesses to their triumph, Elara leaned on Kairos, emotions raw.
This isn't the end,
she murmured, her inner voice resolute.
But with you, I can break it.
The chapter closed on a precipice, power honed, alliances forged, and vengeance simmering, ready for the next turn in the wheel of forgotten memories. Echoes of the thwarted ritual still lingered in Elara's mind as she and Kairos slipped away from the undercroft that night, the shattered crystal orb's fragments crunching beneath their boots like brittle bones. But victory had come at a price. The betrayer's descendants now knew she was fully awakened, and the Academy's facade of polished marble and floating lanterns hid a rot far deeper than she had imagined. Sleep evaded her in the days that followed, her dreams plagued by visions of crumbling tunnels and whispering shadows that called her name in Althea's ancient tongue.
The cycle isn't broken yet,
she murmured to herself in the dim glow of her dormitory, fingers tracing the faint rebirth scar on her collarbone.
It's only begun to fight back.
Driven by an instinct honed across lifetimes, Elara returned to the catacombs alone, leaving Kairos behind with a terse warning.
If I don't come back by dawn, don't follow. Some truths I have to face without dragging you into the abyss.
The entrance lay hidden beneath the Academy's central courtyard, concealed by illusion wards that parted only for those who carried the witch's cursed blood. She descended narrow stone stairs, slick with centuries of damp, the air growing colder and heavier with each step. thick with the metallic tang of old blood and the faint, sickly sweet perfume of forbidden incense. Torches ignited spontaneously as she passed, their flames an unnatural violet that cast elongated shadows, dancing like mocking specters on the walls, etched with faded murals of the great betrayal. Deeper into the labyrinth, the Academy's dark underbelly revealed itself in all its grotesque splendor. The catacombs were no mere burial ground. They were a living archive of suppressed history, a network of chambers where the noble houses had buried their sins. Elara's emerald eyes adjusted to the gloom, her innate sorcery amplifying her senses until she could hear the distant drip of water, like heartbeats, and feel the thrum of latent reincarnation magic woven into the very stones. She thought,
They didn't just betray me.
She thought, anger simmering beneath her calm exterior.
They profited from it.
Whispers guided her forward, ethereal voices of trapped souls from past cycles, fragments of herself crying out warnings and pleas. Turning a corner into a vast cavernous hall, Elara froze at the sight before her. A secret society gathered in hooded robes of crimson silk, their faces obscured by masks carved from bone. At the center stood an altar of black obsidian, pulsing with the same cursed energy that bound her soul. They chanted in unison, their voices a dissonant harmony that twisted the air.
By the wheel's eternal turn, grant us power unending, souls reborn in our service.
The society, calling themselves the Order of the Eternal Coil, worshipped the witch's curse not out of fear, but greed. In this world, reincarnation was a myth to commoners and a controlled privilege to nobles through rare elixirs, but the Order had twisted Althea's punishment into a harvestable resource. They siphoned fragments of her reincarnated essence during each cycle, granting themselves enhanced longevity, amplified magic, and even the ability to implant memories into their heirs, ensuring their bloodlines remained dominant while perpetuating class tensions that kept the masses subjugated.
You dare profane my suffering for your thrones?
Elara's voice cut through the chant like a blade, her aura flaring in a corona of violet and silver light that illuminated the chamber. Gasps rippled through the hooded figures as they turned, recognition dawning beneath their masks. The leader, a gaunt man with eyes like polished onyx, Lord Vesper Blackwood, elder brother to the student she had unmasked, stepped forward, his lips curling into a predatory smile.
The witch's vessel returns. How fortunate. Your essence this cycle is particularly potent.
He raised a hand, and the chamber shuddered as grotesque guardians materialized from the shadows. Abominations infused with reincarnation magic, hulking forms stitched from the corpses of failed vessels, their bodies looping through death and revival in endless torment. The battle erupted in a storm of chaos and light. The first guardian lunged, its decayed flesh regenerating instantly from slashes, eyes glowing with stolen soul fragments that whispered Elara's past failures.
You cannot win. You never win.
It rasped, voice a chorus of her own dying screams from previous lives. Elara dodged with preternatural grace, her godlike spells evolving on instinct, cumulative knowledge from countless battles surging forth. She unleashed a barrage of shadow tendrils, binding the creature, but it broke free, wounds closing in loops of reverse time.
Eternal loops. They weaponized my curse against me.
She realized, heart pounding with a mix of rage and exhilaration. Pushing her powers further, she wove a new fusion, decay threads, laced with temporal disruption, a spell born from her fifth cycle's desperation. The threads pierced the Guardian, unraveling its reincarnation loop, forcing it into true death as flesh sloughed away in accelerated rot, the soul fragments screaming as they dissipated. More guardians swarmed, each more grotesque than the last. One with multiple heads regurgitating cursed flames that burned memories from the mind, another phasing through walls in phased rebirths. Elara danced through the fray, her gown torn and bloodied, sweat mingling with tears of fury. Firestorms clashed against regenerative barriers. Telekinetic waves shattered bone constructs, and illusions multiplied her form to confuse the beasts. Her powers evolved mid-combat, auras expanding to counter the loops, creating anti-reincarnation fields that prevented revival within a radius.
I've died enough times for all of you,
she snarled, vaporizing a guardian with a concentrated blast of fused elements, the explosion lighting the chamber in apocalyptic brilliance. The Order members scattered in panic, their worship turning to terror as their blessings failed them. But triumph fractured when a familiar voice cried out from the shadows.
Elara, help me.
Stumbling into the light was Mira, a fellow noble student Elara had tentatively befriended in this cycle, a girl from a minor house who had shown kindness amid the academy's snobbery, sharing late-night talks about escaping class constraints. Now, Mira's eyes were glazed with corruption, veins blackening beneath her skin as the curse's tendrils wormed through her body. The Order had targeted her as bait, force-feeding her essence, siphoned from the altar.
It burns. The memories, they're not mine.
Mira gasped, convulsing as phantom lives overwhelmed her fragile mind. The corruption was an insidious disease in this world. Noble blood resisted it longer, but once infected, it twisted the victim into a puppet, amplifying ambition into madness while eroding the soul. A tool the powerful used to eliminate rivals or bind servants. Alliances shattered in that heartbreaking moment. Elara rushed forward, attempting a purification spell honed in training, light weaving around Mira to excise the curse. But it was too deep. Mira lunged unnaturally, hands clawing with newfound strength, whispering betrayals from implanted memories.
You're the witch. You deserve this.
Tears streamed down Elara's face as she restrained her friend. Inner monologue, a torrent of anguish.
How many times have I trusted, only to lose them to this poison? Revenge demands a toll, but why always the innocent?
Kairos's face flashed in her mind, a warning of what endless cycles could cost. With trembling hands, Elara pressed a palm to Mira's forehead, channeling a mercy weave, gentle euthanasia disguised as healing, ending the suffering swiftly. Mira's body went limp, a final grateful smile on her lips before the light faded.
I'm sorry. Forgive me in the next life.
Elara whispered, cradling the corpse as sobs racked her frame, the chamber silent save for her grief. Emotional turmoil peaked in the solitude that followed. Elara kneeling amid the fallen guardians, blood pooling around her like accusations.
What is the cost of this revenge?
Her inner voice echoed, raw and broken.
Cycle after cycle, I awakened stronger, but each time a piece of me erodes. Friends turned to enemies, allies to corpses. Is breaking the wheel worth becoming a monster they painted me as? Endless hatred. It stings me, but it devours everything else.
Flashes assaulted her, past loves lost, families she never had, the isolation of immortality in fragments. Yet beneath the despair, burned resolve. The curse wasn't just her prison. It upheld a system where nobles like the Order hoarded power, dooming commoners to one fragile life while they cheated death, wiping tears with a bloodied sleeve. Elara rose and approached the altar, deciphering the ancient runes etched into its surface. Her fingers glowed as she traced them, translating the witch's script, a language only she remembered fully. The inscriptions hinted at the cycle's true breaker, not destruction of the betrayers, but ultimate sacrifice. To end the wheel, the core soul must willingly shatter, offering itself to seal the fracture forever. Her breath caught. It meant true oblivion. No more rebirths, no vengeance completed.
Is that freedom or surrender?
She pondered, the weight pressing like the catacombs themselves. The climax ignited as Lord Vesper re-emerged from a hidden passage, flanked by elite Order enforcers channeling harvested essence, their auras bloated and unstable.
You may have disrupted our harvest, witch, but the cycle serves us now.
He unleashed a torrent of reincarnation-fueled attacks, waves that forced opponents into looped pain, reliving wounds eternally. Elara countered with evolved precision, her anti-loop fields clashing in bursts of temporal distortion. The chamber trembling as realities warped. Dialogue flew amid the fury.
Your greed blinds you, Vesper. This power corrupts absolutely.
She shouted, dodging a soul-rending beam.
And your obsession destroys everything you touch.
He retorted, eyes mad with prolonged life. The duel escalated to cataclysmic heights. Elara's godlike proficiency overwhelming his borrowed might. She shattered his defenses with a vortex of fused shadow and decay, pinning him against the altar.
For all the lives you've stolen!
She hissed, preparing the killing blow. Vesper laughed maniacally, slamming a hidden lever.
Temporary victory, vessel. The underbelly claims its due.
The chamber groaned as traps activated, ancient and collapsing mechanisms designed to bury intruders, stones raining from the ceiling in a deafening roar. 58. Elara struck true, vaporizing Vesper in a final explosion of light, his essence scattering like ash. But escape eluded her. Debris crushed her legs, pain lancing through as the ceiling caved.
Not again! Not like this!
She thought, desperation surging. With her last strength, she wove a preservation bubble, shielding her core, but knowing it wouldn't hold forever. As darkness entombed her, breath fading, the cycle stirred once more, death claiming her temporarily, rebirth looming on the horizon. Yet in that final moment, resolve crystallized. The hints of sacrifice burned in her mind, a path forward amid the endless dark. The suffocating weight of stone and shadow lifted as Elara's consciousness clawed its way back from oblivion. The catacombs collapse, a mere interlude in her eternal saga. Pain flared through her reformed body, not the frail noble frame of before, but something forged in the crucible of cycles. A warrior-mage hybrid, muscles corded like steel cables beneath skin etched with faint arcane tattoos that pulsed with latent power. She gasped, awake, in a hidden grove on the Academy's outskirts. The curse's rebirth mechanism, having transported her essence to a new vessel, the body of a fallen student from a disgraced lineage, blending martial prowess with sorcery in a forbidden union that the Academy's laws explicitly banned.
Another life, another chance,
she thought, her inner voice a thunderous echo of accumulated fury. In this world, warrior mages were relics of a bygone era, suppressed by nobles who feared their balanced might disrupting the class divide. Mages hoarded spells in towers, while warriors bled on battlefields, commoners denied both. But Elara's cumulative experiences from dozens of loops rendered her untouchable. Her mind, a vault of hybrid techniques that fused blade and bolt into devastating symphonies, rising unsteadily, leaves crunching under her boots. Elara tested her new form. The air hummed with energy as she summoned a spectral sword, its edge shimmering with embedded lightning runes, a spell from her 9th cycle, defying the Academy's edict against merging physical and magical arts. She swung it through a tree trunk, the blade slicing clean while electricity arced to incinerate the falling halves.
They call this heresy? It's evolution.
She inwardly sneered, her heart racing with the thrill of overpowered dominance. No longer vulnerable to the slow awakening of past lives, she was a storm incarnate, her senses sharpened to detect magical flows like a predator scenting blood. The rebirth had amplified her innate sorcery, turning hybrid spells into god-tier arsenals, telekinetic dashes that blurred her form, armor weaves that absorbed impacts and retaliated with force waves. But with power came isolation. In this hybrid body, she felt the weight of social scorn, a reminder of the tensions where nobles viewed such fusions as abominations, diluting pure bloodlines. Word of the Undercroft's collapse had spread like wildfire through the Academy, whispers attributing it to structural decay, while the Order licked its wounds in secrecy. Elara, cloaked in a simple hood to mask her new identity, infiltrated the bustling quad where students gathered under floating banners proclaiming the annual Duel Festival, a public spectacle where grievances were settled with magic and might, reinforcing the hierarchy. The Dean, Archmage Eldrick Thorn, patriarch of the Betrayer's line, his wizened face a mask of false benevolence, presided from a levitating throne, his robes embroidered with wards that symbolized unchallenged authority.
This farce ends today,
Elara resolved, her pulse steady as she stepped into the arena's chalked circle, shedding her disguise to reveal her transformed self. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Recognition flickered in Eldrick's eyes, narrowing to slits of calculation.
I challenge you, Dean Thorn,
Elara declared, her voice amplified by a subtle sonic spell that carried like thunder, drawing every eye.
For corruption that stains this Academy's soul, tied to the witch's era you so conveniently erase.
Murmurs erupted. Challenges against faculty were rare, but public duels were binding under Academy law, a system designed to quash dissent, but now turned against its master. Eldrick descended gracefully, staff crackling with elemental fury.
Insolent hybrid. You defy the natural order. Nobles command magic, warriors serve. Your kind was outlawed for a reason.
His words dripped with class disdain, echoing the societal rift where commoner warriors were fodder, denied magical training to prevent uprisings. The duel ignited in a blaze of spectacle, the arena's wards flaring to contain the chaos. Eldrick struck first, unleashing a barrage of fire orbs that homed in like vengeful spirits. Elara blurred forward in a telekinetic dash, her spectral sword deflecting them with explosive rebounds, the impacts sending shockwaves that cracked the ground.
Your laws can't bind what you've awakened.
She taunted, countering with hybrid spells that wove ice chains around his legs while her blade slashed at his defenses. The crowd leaned in, breaths held, as flashbacks interwove seamlessly into the fray. Elara's mind projecting visions onto the arena's illusory dome, a forbidden technique from her 12th cycle that exposed truths mid-battle. In the swirling mirage, the witch's original curse unfolded. Centuries ago, Althea stood in a crumbling throne room, surrounded by the coalition she had forged against the tyrannical emperor. Her allies, ancestors of Thorn, Blackwood, turned on her, daggers drawn not for justice but greed, coveting her unparalleled power.
You promised equality,
Althea cried, blood staining her robes as betrayal pierced her flesh. But in her dying breath, it was a desperate act of justice.
If you steal my light, then wander in shadows eternal, cycles of memory, until balance is restored.
The curse wasn't vengeance alone. It was a cosmic equalizer, forcing the betrayer's descendants to relive the consequences of inequality, their souls tainted while commoners suffered under their yoke. The visions shattered societal myths. The curse as a monstrous hex, revealing it as a safeguard against corruption, amplifying class tensions by binding the elite to their sins. Eldrick roared in denial, his staff summoning earthen golems infused with noble exclusive spells, their fists pounding toward Elara.
Lies! The witch was a tyrant.
But her untouchable evolution shone. She dismantled the constructs with hybrid precision, a whirlwind kick enhanced by wind propulsion, followed by decay bolts that eroded stone to dust. The exposure rippled through the audience. Students from minor houses whispered of suppressed histories, while nobles shifted uncomfortably, the duel's drama intensifying as Elara pressed her advantage.
Your family's wealth? Built on stolen grimoires. This academy? A facade for the Order's harvests.
With a force wave that hurled Eldrick back, cracking his wards, blood trickled from his lip, his composure fracturing, emotions raw as ancestral guilt surfaced. The crowd's cheers turned divided, commoner spectators rallying while nobles booed, highlighting the powder keg of social unrest. As the duel climaxed, Elara pinned Eldrick with shadow binds, her sword at his throat.
Yield and confess.
He spat defiance, but the visions had sown doubt. With a grudging nod, he admitted fragments. Ties to the witch's era, corruption veiled as tradition. The arena erupted in chaos. Elara's victory a spark for change, but she knew it was fleeting. Exposed but not broken, she thought, withdrawing as guards swarmed, her hybrid form allowing a swift escape into the shadows. In the aftermath, whispers of rebellion fermented in the academy's undercurrents. Elara sought out the disaffected, a ragtag faction of minor nobles, commoner scholars, smuggled in as servants, and hybrid outcasts, shunned by the system. They gathered in a forgotten wing of the library, shelves groaning under dusty tomes that spoke of equalized power, ideals crushed by noble dominance.
Join me,
Elara urged, her presence commanding, aura radiating the weight of cycles.
I've lived your struggles across lifetimes. Together, we shatter the wheel.
Skeptical at first, they listened as she revealed glimpses of her truth, her voice laced with emotional depth. The curse isn't our enemy, it's the chains they forged from it. 68. Recruitment blossomed into fervent alliance, Elara training them in ancient skills passed through her cycles. Techniques lost to time, defying the Academy's stratified curriculum. In torchlit sessions amid crumbling ruins, she demonstrated hybrid fundamentals. A young warrior learning to infuse his blade with fire runes, a mage channeling strength weaves to wield weapons without frailty.
Feel the fusion,
she instructed, correcting postures with gentle precision.
In my 15th cycle, I honed this against beasts. Now, it's yours.
Emotions ran high. Frustration in failures. Triumph in breakthroughs. Bonds forming as they shared stories of oppression. One recruit, a commoner girl named Elara, confided tears.
They say we're unworthy of magic, but with you, I feel seen.
Elara's inner monologue swelled with bittersweet warmth.
Allies again. But will this cycle spare them or claim them as before?
Unity forged in sweat and spells. But the true test loomed. Alarms blared across the academy as a massive invasion erupted. Cursed beasts, grotesque amalgamations spawned from the witch's fractured essence, warped by the Order's meddling. Hulking shadows with eyes of swirling voids, tentacles laced with reincarnation loops that regenerated endlessly. They breached the outer wards in a tide of snarls and shrieks.
The curse backlashes.
Elara realized, rallying her faction amid the quad's pandemonium. Students fled screaming, nobles barricading in towers, while commoners bore the brunt. A stark display of class disparity. The elite's protections failing the masses. The invasion tested their mettle. In a whirlwind of carnage, beasts charged, their roars shaking the ground, forms shifting through death loops to evade fatal blows. Elara led the charge, her overpowered hybrid spells a beacon, spectral swords multiplying into barrages, cleaving through hides while force fields shielded her allies.
Hold the line,
she shouted, dodging a tentacle lash that cracked marble. Elara, empowered by training, unleashed a fused blast, flame-wrapped arrows piercing a beast's core, disrupting its loop. But drama intensified as fractures appeared. A recruit faltered, overwhelmed by a beast's psychic assault echoing past traumas, forcing Elara to intervene with a mercy shield.
Don't break now,
she urged inwardly, her heart aching at their vulnerability. Kairos, rejoined in secrecy, fought at her side, his shadow arts complementing her fury. Their synergy a testament to enduring bonds amid chaos. Beasts swarmed relentlessly, the air thick with the stench of ichor and ozone from clashing magics. One colossal abomination, a fusion of multiple souls, targeted Elara, its maw spewing cursed tendrils that induced hallucinatory deaths. Flashbacks interwove again. Althea's desperate curse, manifesting as these guardians, twisted by betrayers' greed into monsters enforcing the cycle. Elara countered with evolved precision, her revenge-driven aura flaring to counter the loops, allies rallying around her cries.
For justice, not chains.
Unity held as they synchronized attacks, a hybrid volley, shattering the beast's form, its dissolution, a cathartic release. Surviving the onslaught, the academy smoldered, beasts repelled, but at great cost. Fallen comrades mourned in hushed silences. Amid the ruins, Elara unearthed a relic from the invasion's epicenter. An ancient amulet, pulsing with Althea's original essence, a fragment of the curse's core. As she claimed it, power surged through her veins, amplifying her revenge-driven aura into an overwhelming force. Emotions heightened, visions clearer, spells unbound.
This changes everything,
she thought, the amulet's glow illuminating her path forward, evolution complete, but the cycle's end still a distant horizon. The amulet's glow faded against Elara's chest, as the Academy's ruins smoldered in the aftermath of the beast invasion. But the power it unlocked felt different now, deeper, older, almost sentient. She stood amid the debris, relic humming like a second heartbeat, when the first crack appeared in her certainty. A voice, not her own inner monologue, but something ancient and resonant, whispered from the core of her soul.
At last, vessel, you are ready.
Elara staggered, clutching her head, as visions assaulted her. Not memories of past cycles, but fragments of Althea's final moments, rage distilled into pure, undying will. The shocking revelation crashed over her like a tidal wave. The witch's spirit had never fully departed. It resided within her, the true architect of the reincarnations, using Elara's bodies as vessels for vengeance across centuries.
I've been her puppet all along?
She thought, horror mingling with betrayal as the amulet's amplification tore away the illusion of separation. The internal conflict erupted violently, her hybrid warrior mage form trembling in the moonlit quad. Powers that had been untouchable now fluctuated wildly. Spectral blades flickering in and out of existence, elemental surges sparking uncontrollably from her fingertips, scorching the ground in erratic patterns. In this world, soul possession was a forbidden disease, a corruption nobles whispered about in hushed tones. Vessels lost autonomy, their essences eroded, until only the invader remained. But this was worse. Althea's spirit wasn't invading. It had always been the foundation, the curse, a deliberate tether to ensure vengeance endured.
Was any of it mine?
Elara's inner voice, fractured, despair, clashing against the accumulated resolve of lifetimes.
The pain, the losses, the rage, or just her script playing out?
Tears carved tracks through the ash on her face as she fell to her knees, the amulet pulsing in rhythm with the witch's laughter echoing in her skull. Kairos found her there, his silver hair catching the starlight as he rushed forward, shadow arts dispersing the lingering cursed mist.
Elara, what happened?
His hand steadied her shoulders, concern etching his reincarnated features, the face of Lucian, forever bound. She shoved him away instinctively, aura flaring in unstable bursts that forced him back.
Don't touch me. I don't even know who I am anymore.
The words spilled out in a torrent, her voice cracking with emotional rawness. He listened as she confessed the revelation, the spirit's presence, the betrayal by her own essence.
All this time I thought I was fighting for justice. But she's been steering the cycles, fueling the hatred to keep the wheel turning.
Kairos's eyes softened with shared torment. His own reincarnations tied to hers by loyalty, now tainted by doubt.
Then we've both been vessels in our way, but your choices, they always felt like yours.
Word of the invasion survival spread, but so did rumors of Elara's instability, twisted by the elite into tales of hybrid madness. A convenient excuse to tighten class controls, painting warriors and mages who crossed lines as unstable threats. The Academy announced the Tournament of Fates, a grand spectacle ostensibly to honor the fallen and restore order. But Elara saw it for what it was, a stage for the reincarnated betrayers to reassert dominance. Held in the colossal Colosseum warded with illusion amplifiers that broadcast every clash across the realm. It drew entrants from noble houses, descendants whose souls echoed their ancestors' treachery.
They gather like vultures,
Elara thought, the witch's spirit surging in approval, her powers stabilizing momentarily under its influence. She entered the tournament despite the turmoil, drawn by the chance to confront them directly. The brackets paired her against reincarnated versions of past betrayers first, a lithe swordswoman from House Thorn, her eyes gleaming with the same arrogance that had driven the dagger centuries ago. The crowd roared as barriers rose, the arena shifting into randomized terrains, forests of crystal thorns, rivers of molten lava, to test adaptability.
You again.
The swordswoman sneered, recognizing the aura across lives.
The witch's echo never learns.
Elara's hybrid spells erupted in controlled fury, spectral sword clashing against enchanted steel, but fluctuations betrayed her, a force wave misfiring, allowing a grazing cut that burned with cursed venom.
Feel that doubt, Vessel?
Althea's voice mocked internally.
Brace me, or perish.
Emotional depth built through brutal dialogues amid the clashes, each round a mirror to morality's fractures. Against a Blackwood illusionist who wove phantoms of past deaths, Mira's mercy kill replaying in agonizing loops, Elara parried desperately, her voice raw.
Justice, or just endless cruelty? How many more must die for your ancestors' sins?
The illusionist laughed, countering with memory blades that drew blood and tears.
Forgiveness? The witch offered none. Why should we?
But Elara pressed, power surging as her own will clashed with the spirits.
Because cycles of hate only breed more betrayers. Look at what it's made of us.
Spectators shifted uneasily, the broadcast amplifying her words, seeds of doubt sprouting in noble minds conditioned to view the curse as monstrous necessity. Allies rallied in the stands, her rebel faction, Elara and others trained in ancient hybrids, cheering defiance against the hierarchy. Kairos fought in parallel brackets, his shadow arts a dark counterpoint to her light, their glances across the Colosseum, laden with unspoken support.
We're in this together,
he mouthed during a brief interlude, his presence anchoring her amid the internal storm. The faction infiltrated the crowds, whispering truths exposed in prior revelations, eroding the elite's narrative. But tension coiled as the tournament progressed, the witch's spirit growing bolder, urging Elara toward ruthless finishes that clashed with her evolving morality.
End them permanently!
It hissed during a semifinal against a dual wielder, whose ancestor had sealed the original curse. Elara hesitated mid-strike, blade trembling, fluctuation allowing a counter that nearly felled her.
I won't be your weapon blindly.
She inwardly roared, stabilizing her power through sheer will, defeating the opponent with restraint rather than annihilation. The climax twisted fate into betrayal's cruel embrace. In the final rounds, a supposed ally from the rebel faction, a minor noble who had pledged loyalty after the invasion, revealed a double cross. Influenced by promises from the Order's remnants, he activated hidden runes embedded in the Colosseum's wards during Elara's championship bout against the tournament's seeded champion, a composite heir blending Thorn and Blackwood bloodlines.
For the Greater Order!
The traitor shouted, triggering a cascade of ceiling arrays that targeted not just Elara, but the entire arena. Cursed chains erupted from the ground, binding spectators and combatants alike, siphoning essences to fuel a mass ritual, harvesting souls en masse to bolster the elite's longevity, while framing it as containing the witch's madness. Mass casualties unfolded in horrifying chaos. Rebels crushed under collapsing barriers, commoner onlookers drained to husks, their one-life fragility a stark indictment of class tensions. The nobles' wards shielding the elite sections while the masses suffered. Lyra's scream cut through the din as chains ensnared her, her hybrid training futile against the betrayal's scale. Kairos fought toward Elara, shadows lashing out, but the champion pressed the advantage, blade gleaming with stolen power.
See? Even your allies turn. The cycle demands blood.
Emotional turmoil peaked as Elara battled on multiple fronts. Against the champion, the spirit's possessive surge, and the grief of loss.
How many more?
She cried aloud, tears blurring her vision, powers fluctuating to catastrophic levels. A wild surge shattered her bindings, but the cost was dire. The explosion vaporized the traitor and champion alike, yet rippled outward, claiming more allies in the backlash. Dialogues of despair echoed in the maelstrom. Elara confronting the witch's spirit internally.
This isn't justice. It's slaughter.
Althea's response chilled her core.
Justice was lost the day they betrayed us. Vengeance is all that remains.
But in that moment, Elara's will asserted, planting seeds of doubt even in the ancient essence. Questions of forgiveness, not for the betrayers, but for herself, for perpetuating the wheel. The Academy's elite, safe in their enclaves, watched in horror as the broadcast revealed the Double Cross's origins in their own houses, whispers of dissent growing louder. The cycle claimed her again as exhaustion, and wounds overwhelmed her hybrid form, the sealing arrays completing their work on her vessel. Darkness swallowed her vision, the amulet cracking under the strain, but not before her final act, a broadcasted declaration amplified across the realm.
The curse isn't the monster. Your greed is. Doubt it, question it, or become it.
She collapsed amid the carnage, soul fracturing once more for rebirth. The tournament's survivors, noble and commoner alike, left with seeds of doubt burrowing deep. The elite's facade cracked, allies mourned but inspired. And within the departing essence, a flicker of uncertainty stirred in Althea's vengeful spirit. For the first time in centuries, the void of death released its grip once more, and Elara's soul surged into a new vessel with a clarity that burned like starfire. This time, the rebirth was flawless. No haze of forgotten memories, no gradual awakening. Complete mastery over the curse pulsed through her. The amulet's cracked remnants fused into her essence during the tournament's chaos, granting dominion over the wheel itself. She opened her eyes in the Academy's sacred birthing chamber, a hidden sanctum reserved for prophesied bloodlines. Her body, that of the long-awaited savior foretold in ancient murals, lithe yet unbreakable, veins glowing with intertwined light and shadow, hair cascading like liquid night threaded with silver runes. Whispers of destiny had prepared the world for this figure, a unifier meant to heal the fractures of magic and class. But as attendants gasped and knelt, Elara rose with an aura that commanded worship and instilled bone-deep fear. "The Savior awakens," one murmured in awe, while another's eyes widened in terror, sensing the witch's storm beneath the prophecy. In this overpowered state, Elara was transcendence incarnate. Hybrid spells no longer fusions but seamless extensions of will, capable of reshaping reality with a thought. The Academy's laws, its stratified systems of noble mages lording over warrior commoners, crumbled in her presence. Students parted like waves as she strode through marble halls, her her footsteps echoing with harmonic resonance that soothed the oppressed and unsettled the elite.
She bears the mark of both worlds.
A commoner servant whispered, hope igniting in eyes long dimmed by servitude. Nobles, descendants of betrayers, recoiled, their inherited privileges feeling fragile against her gaze. The social tensions that had festered for centuries. Elites hoarding grimoires while denying education to the masses, branding hybrids as unstable abominations, now teetered on collapse. Elara's very existence was a threat, her mastery turning the curse from prison to key. Yet beneath the worship lay turmoil. The witch's spirit, fully revealed as puppeteer, stirred restlessly within, its vengeance sharpened by centuries.
Now we end them,
It urged, voice a silken blade in her mind. But the tournament's losses, Lyra's scream, the double cross's carnage, had forged growth in Elara's fractured soul.
No more blind hatred.
She inwardly vowed, character evolving from vessel of rage to arbiter of choice. Kairos found her in the prophecy chamber, his reincarnated form slipping past wards that bowed to her presence.
You're radiant,
he breathed, awe and love warring with concern. She pulled him close, their auras merging in familiar harmony.
And terrified. The power is mine now, but so is the decision.
Their embrace lingered, emotions raw, cycles of loss making this moment precious, an anchor against the storm. Driven by resolve, Elara orchestrated the grand ritual in the Academy's heart, the Celestial Nexus, a colossal dome where ley lines converged, its crystal spires piercing clouds heavy with impending thunder. She rallied survivors, allies from the rebel faction, commoners emboldened by her rise, even wavering nobles swayed by planted doubts.
Today, we summon truth,
She declared to the gathering crowd, voice carrying across amplified winds. Preparations unfolded in tense montage, runes etched with her blood, amplifiers forged from relic fragments, barriers woven to contain the confrontation. The ritual's purpose unraveled layers of betrayal, summoning the witch's full spirit, not for merger, but confrontation, forcing Althea to manifest separately and account for the cycle's toll. As chants rose in harmonic layers, ancient tongues passed through Elara's mastery. The nexus trembled, skies darkening, as ethereal chains materialized, drawing the spirit forth. Althea emerged in spectral glory, taller than memory, robes flowing like living shadow, eyes burning with undimmed fury. The crowd gasped, worship turning to dread at the witch's palpable malice. But Elara stood unbowed, overpowered state equaling the manifestation.
You've used me, us, for vengeance long enough.
She accused, voice steady despite inner quake. Althea laughed, the sound shattering nearby crystals.
I am you, child. Betrayed, broken, eternal. They deserve oblivion.
Dialogues deepened the rift. Justice twisted into genocide? That's not me. The spirit snarled, revealing the final betrayal. The Dean's lineage as the original traitor. Archmage Eldrick Thorn burst into the Nexus, guards loyal to his house flanking him, his face contorted with ancestral madness.
You dare summon her fully? Fool!
Flashbacks interwove as he channeled forbidden arts. Visions of the great betrayal sharpening into focus. Eldrick's direct ancestor, not just a participant, but the instigator, whispering poison into allies' ears, coveting Althea's power for his bloodline alone.
He promised equality, then struck first.
Althea roared through the manifestation, but Elara saw the manipulation, how the spirit had amplified divisions to ensure endless war. The Dean unleashed his trump, a soul-severing array hidden in the Nexus, designed centuries ago to trap the witch forever.
My ancestor began it. I finish it.
Intense action sequences erupted, magical wars shaking the Academy's foundations in cataclysmic fury. Eldrick's forces clashed against Elara's allies, noble mages hurling elitist spells of pure elements, barriers reinforced by class-bound oaths that excluded commoner magic. But Elara's mastery turned the tide. With a sweep of her hand, she dismantled hierarchies literally. Hybrid weaves democratizing power, infusing allies with temporary overpowered states, commoner warriors summoning spectral blades, minor nobles breaking bloodline limits. Beams of light and shadow crisscrossed the dome, explosions cratering marble as spires toppled in slow-motion avalanches. Kairos fought at her side, shadows coiling, into draconic forms that devoured enemy wards, their synergy a dance of reincarnated love amid destruction. The Dean pressed personally, staff blazing with stolen witch essence, his lineage's disease, a parasitic corruption that extended life by siphoning cycles fragments, explaining their enduring dominance.
You cannot win, Vessel! The curse sustains us!
He bellowed, unleashing a void rift that swallowed allies whole. Elara countered with godlike precision, her form blurring in telekinetic storms, spectral swords multiplying into legions that pierced his defenses. Foundations groaned as shockwaves propagated, the Academy's lower levels collapsing in dust clouds, symbolic of the crumbling order. Allies fell, yet rose empowered, their sacrifices fueling Elara's growth. Each loss a reminder of mercy's necessity over revenge's allure. Althea intervened, spirit, lashing out in possessive rage, tendrils of pure curse ensnaring Elara, attempting remerger.
We are one. End this farce.
Pain lanced through her as essences warred internally, powers flickering between dominance and harmony. But character growth shone brightest here. Elara chose mercy, not striking down the spirit but reasoning through agony.
Suffered enough. Perpetuating pain honors no one.
Tears streamed as she extended a hand, offering reconciliation over domination. The witch faltered, centuries of isolation cracking under genuine compassion, a first across cycles. The pivotal confrontation peaked with the Dean cornered, his array shattering under combined assaults.
Mercy? For him?
Althea hissed, urging annihilation. Eldrick lunged in desperation, blade infused with severing magic aimed at Elara's core. Time slowed. Kairos's warning cry, allies' gasps, as she made the choice. Instead of lethal counter, Elara disarmed him with precision weaves, binding rather than killing, exposing his crimes to the broadcasted nexus.
Not blind revenge.
The Dean collapsed, defeated but alive. His lineage's betrayal laid bare for all. Nobles witnessing the rot at their root, commoners empowered by her mercy. The chapter built to the ultimate crossroads, the ritual's core pulsing, offering two paths, etched in light and shadow. Perpetuate the cycle, merge fully with Althea, wielding eternal vengeance to reshape the world in justified tyranny, or end it forever. Shatter the wheel through mutual release, sacrificing immortality and power for true freedom, risking oblivion but healing the fractures. Althea's manifestation wavered, touched by Elara's evolution.
You would. Forgive? After everything?
Emotions crested. Elara's inner monologue a torrent of lifetime's weight.
Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the only way to stop becoming them.
Allies watched in breathless silence, Kairos's hand in hers, a tether across reincarnations. Thunder rolled as Elara reached toward the core, the Academy trembling on the brink, her choice hanging like fate itself. Mercy's light or vengeance's shadow, the eternal loop poised for breaking or endless turning. The celestial nexus thrummed with raw, uncontained power as Elara stood at its heart, the ritual's core pulsing between paths of light and shadow, her hand hovering inches from the fracture that bound the eternal wheel. Althea's spectral form loomed opposite her, eyes no longer burning with solitary rage but flickering with something new, uncertainty, perhaps even longing for release. Kairos gripped her other hand tightly, his presence a lifeline across countless lives, while allies, rebels, commoners, wavering nobles, formed a circle around them, their auras woven into the ritual's barriers, holding back the Dean's crumbling forces. Thunder cracked overhead, the Academy's spires swaying as ley lines strained under the weight of impending decision.
Choose, Vessel!
Althea whispered, voice echoing like a storm trapped in glass.
Vengeance eternal or Oblivion's mercy?
But Elara's growth had forged a third path, one born not of surrender or domination, but integration.
Neither,
she declared, her voice resonant with mastered authority, overpowered essence flaring in a corona that blended light and shadow into harmonious twilight. With deliberate grace, she reached not to shatter the core, but to embrace it, pulling Althea's manifestation into herself, merging willingly, where before it had been parasitic possession. Pain exploded through her being as centuries of isolated fury crashed against lifetimes of accumulated compassion. Essences warring in a cataclysmic fusion that shook the nexus to its foundations.
we end this together. not as master and tool, but as one.
She inwardly roared, tears streaming as memories aligned. Althea's betrayal raw and fresh. Elara's losses a tapestry of grief, yet woven through with moments of love, loyalty, fleeting joys. The merger completed in a blinding nova, Elara rising transformed, eyes dual-hued, one emerald of her vessels, one obsidian of the witch, hair flowing with living runes that rewrote reality's script. Cataclysmic magic surged unbound, no longer fluctuating but absolute. A force that defied the Academy's corrupt systems, where nobles had twisted magic into chains of class oppression, hoarding reincarnation fragments as a disease of eternal privilege while commoners withered in single, fragile lives.
This ends now,
She intoned, voice layered with both selves in harmony, aura expanding to encompass the entire Academy, barriers shattering like glass under tidal pressure. The final showdown erupted against the corrupt core, the Order's hidden sanctum beneath the Nexus, a throbbing heart of stolen essences where puppet masters had pulled strings across centuries. As Elara descended, floors parting at her will, twists unraveled in horrifying clarity. Not just the Dean's lineage, but a cabal of ancient entities, immortal puppets animated by harvested soul shards, their forms grotesque fusions of noble ancestors preserved beyond death. Eldrick Thorn knelt at their center, no longer defiant but broken, revealed as mere figurehead.
We were always their tools.
He gasped, eyes hollow as strings of essence tethered him to the core, a pulsating orb of compressed reincarnations, the true perpetuator of the curse's harvest. Allies from past lives manifested in response to the merger's call. Spectral aids rising from the ether, ghostly warriors, mages, friends lost across cycles, Mira's gentle smile amid healing light, Lyra's fierce hybrid stance, even fleeting lovers and mentors felled by betrayal. They materialize not as vengeful shades, but protectors, their forms translucent yet potent, turning the tide in epic battles that rent the undersanctum asunder.
We've waited for this,
Mira's spirit whispered, weaving barriers that absorbed puppet lashes. Kairos fought solidified beside her, shadows amplified by Lucian's eternal bond, their blades clashing in synchronized fury against grotesque guardians. Puppets with elongated limbs, strung by essence threads, regenerating through stolen loops until Elara's cataclysmic waves severed connections permanently. 101. Action sequences unfolded in breathtaking chaos. Spectral allies, swarming puppets in aerial dogfights, light lances piercing regenerative flesh, while shadow coils strangled core tendrils. Elara unleashed merged magic on a scale unseen. Tidal waves of fused elements crashing through chambers, telekinetic storms hurling puppets into void rifts she tore open, decay weaves unraveling immortality's disease at its root. The sanctum's walls cracked, ancient murals of false history crumbling to reveal truths beneath, depictions of equality suppressed, commoners once wielding power before noble corruption.
Your strings snap today,
Elara roared, confronting the core directly, its surface writhing with faces of harvested souls, screaming silently. Twists deepened the horror, a leading puppet unmasking as the original emperor's preserved consciousness, the tyrant Althea had opposed, who had orchestrated the betrayal from shadows to claim her power for eternal rule.
I pulled every string.
It hissed through a porcelain mask, cracking under pressure. Voice a chorus of dominated souls.
Nobles, witches, cycles, all my theater.
Spectral allies faltered momentarily, Mira's form flickering as harvested fragments tugged, but Elara's merger stabilized them, infusing resolve.
No more plays.
She countered, cataclysmic blast shattering the mask to reveal decayed features, puppets collapsing as strings burned away. Emotional resolution built amid the fury, Elara pausing before the core's guardians, fallen nobles, including Eldrick, their eyes pleading beneath corruption. Vengeance screamed for annihilation, Althea's essence surging hot within, but Elara chose forgiveness intertwined with justice.
I forgive the deceived,
She murmured, extending mercy weaves that purged parasitic tethers without killing hosts. Eldrick slumping free, weeping as centuries of manipulation lifted.
But not the architects.
The Emperor puppet lunged in desperation, tendrils aiming to repossess, but spectral aids intercepted. Mira's sacrifice solidifying her form to block, Lyra's blade severing the assault.
For all we've lost.
They echoed, fading smiles radiant as they expended essence to protect the merger. Tears blurred Elara's vision as she pressed forward, hand plunging into the core, not to destroy blindly, but to reclaim and release.
Justice isn't erasure.
Her inner voice harmonized with Althea's softened tone.
It's freedom for victims and the redeemed.
Cataclysmic magic peaked in a controlled implosion. The orb fracturing under compassionate force, stolen essences exploding outward in liberating light. Souls long trapped soared free, reincarnations unbound, the curse's wheel grinding to a halt as fragments dissipated into the ether. Puppets crumbled to dust, the Emperor's consciousness wailing into oblivion, no strings left to pull. 105. The curse shattered in a resonant boom that echoed across the realm. Academy foundations settling into silence as peace descended like dawn after endless night. Elara emerged from the depths, body glowing faintly before dimming to mortal warmth. No longer overpowered vessel, but woman reclaimed, free from reincarnation's chains. Allies gathered in the Nexus ruins, commoners and nobles alike embracing amid tears, class tensions dissolving as purged magics equalized, grimoires opening to all, hybrids celebrated rather than shunned. Kairos pulled her into an embrace that felt eternal, yet newly precious, knowing this life was singular.
We did.
He whispered, voice thick. Althea's essence, fully integrated and at peace, offered silent farewell within.
Thank you for teaching me mercy.
Emotional catharsis washed over Elara, as spectral aids faded one by one. Final nods of gratitude. Mira's gentle wave, Lyra's proud salute, souls released to true rest, no cycles remaining. She forgave the past, not through forgetting, but honoring, monuments rising in memory, histories rewritten with truth. The Academy transformed, a beacon of unity where power served rather than divided. Yet as peace settled, hints of new threats lingered in the shadows, faint ripples in distant ley lines, whispers of outer realms, stirred by the curse's shattering, entities beyond the wheel eyeing the freed world. Elara stood on a balcony overlooking blooming grounds, hand Iros's, heart full yet vigilant. Vengeance fulfilled not in blood, but balance restored. The eternal loop broken, a new chapter dawning with promise and subtle peril. Sunlight filtered through the rebuilt spires of the Eldoria Academy, casting prisms across courtyards where students of every station trained side by side, their spells mingling in harmonious bursts that would have been unthinkable mere months ago. The curse's shattering had rippled outward like a shockwave of liberation, dissolving the invisible chains that had stratified magic for centuries. Nobles no longer hoarded forbidden grimoires, commoners no longer bowed under the threat of single-life fragility, and hybrids walked tall without fear of being branded abominations. Elara moved through these changed halls like a living legend, her presence alone enough to quiet conversations and draw reverent gazes. No longer bound to reincarnation's wheel, her body retained echoes of merged power, subtle runes flickering beneath her skin when emotions ran high, an aura that instinctively calmed tensions or ignited inspiration. Yet the overpowered legacy she carried was double-edged, inspiring a new generation while reminding her of the countless lives that had forged it. 109. She paused at the edge of the central training field, watching a young commoner girl weave elemental fire with the precision once reserved for elite bloodlines. Her instructor, a former noble, offering patient guidance instead of scorn.
This is what we fought for.
Elara thought, a soft smile touching her lips, but the smile faded as quickly as it came, replaced by a familiar ache deep in her chest. Lingering memories surfaced unbidden, flashes of catacombs collapsing, tournament chains draining allies, Mira's final grateful gaze before the mercy weave took her. The bouts of melancholy struck without warning now, waves of grief for lives that felt both hers and distant. Echoes of Althea's isolation blending with her own accumulated losses.
How do you mourn centuries when the world celebrates their end?
Her inner voice whispered, raw and searching, as she turned away from the field to seek solitude in the rebuilt observatory. The stars above offered no answers, only familiar constellations that had wheeled overhead through every cycle. Elara leaned against the telescope's cool brass, fingers tracing the cracked amulet fused into a pendant at her throat, a relic now dormant, its power willingly surrendered to fuel the breaking. Introspective monologues spilled silently into the night.
I was vengeance incarnate, a soul sharpened by betrayal into a weapon. Now, what remains when the blade is sheathed? What remains when the blade is sheathed? Peace feels like emptiness sometimes. A void where rage once burned bright enough to light the dark.
Tears welled, not of weakness but release. The freedom to feel without the curse's compulsion twisting sorrow into hatred. Kairos often found her in these moments, his footsteps soft on the marble, understanding born of shared reincarnations, allowing him to simply sit beside her, hand resting over hers until the wave passed. Redemption sought her out in unexpected forms. Former enemies, descendants of Thorn, Blackwood, even purged members of the Order, approached with bowed heads and trembling voices, the Academy's reform councils, encouraging confession as part of healing societal wounds. Eliza Thorne, once haughty and venomous, waited in the reconciliation gardens where enchanted vines bloomed in colors symbolizing forgiveness.
I carried my ancestors' sins without question,
she admitted, voice cracking as Elara regarded her silently.
The histories they fed us painted you as monster, but after the shattering, I see the monster was the lie.
Uneasy alliances forged in these encounters, Eliza offering archived grimoires long sealed away, others pledging resources to rebuild commoner districts ravaged by old oppressions. Elara accepted warily, her growth evident in measured mercy rather than instant trust. She replied firmly, yet with compassion.
It's action. Prove your words in service, not servitude.
Tension simmered, old instincts warning of betrayal, but each genuine effort chipped away at lingering distrust, weaving former foes into the Academy's new tapestry. A heartfelt subplot wove through quieter days, tying up loose ends with reincarnated friends who had manifested briefly in the final battle. Spectral echoes had lingered after the curse's end, granted temporary solidity by the merger's residual energy, a gift of closure before true rest. Mira appeared first in the healing wards she had once dreamed of revolutionizing, her translucent form helping train new healers in techniques only Elara remembered from past cycles.
I never got to thank you properly,
Mira said, eyes shining with unshed tears as they worked side by side.
That mercy! It freed me sooner than any victory could!
Their embrace passed through ether yet warmed Elara's heart, conversations stretching late into evenings, laughter over shared memories, sorrow for paths not taken in other lives. Lyra manifested on the training grounds, sparring with hybrid students and offering gruff praise that masked deep emotion.
You broke the wheel, boss.
She grunted after a particularly fierce bout, spectral blade dissolving into light.
Proud to have fought with you, every damn time.
Closure came in waves. Tears, stories, final farewells, as essences faded willingly into peace, leaving Elara richer for the goodbyes she had never been allowed before. Yet peace carried undercurrents of unrest. Rising stakes emerged in subtle omens. Scouts reporting strange ley line fluctuations beyond the borders. Merchants whispering of shadowy delegations from distant empires eyeing the power vacuum left by the Order's fall. In council chambers where nobles and commoners now sat equal, reports painted pictures of external forces, warlocks from the void marches, imperial mages from across the sea, drawn to the Academy's newfound reservoir of democratized magic, like moths to flame.
They smell weakness,
a reformed Blackwood heir warned. Maps spread across the table showing encroaching sigils.
The curse kept them at bay. Its absence invites conquest.
Elara listened intently, her role as guardian solidifying with each briefing. Strategies shaped by centuries of tactical memory, defenses woven with merged insight that turned potential invasion routes into labyrinths of illusion and force. One Twilight Council devolved into heated debate, voices rising over resource allocation for border wards versus internal reforms. Elara rose, aura flaring gently to command attention without intimidation. A leader's presence honed through growth.
We do not trade one oppression for another,
she stated, voice carrying the weight of lived history.
Prepare defenses, yes, but rooted in unity, not fear. Train all who wish to stand, noble or commoner.
Her words quelled dissent, former enemies nodding alongside rebel allies, the uneasy alliances strengthening under shared purpose. Later, alone on the highest spire, wind whipping her hair as storms gathered on distant horizons, Elara reflected deeply on her journey.
From vengeful soul, reborn again and again to settle scores that only multiplied, to this.
She thought, gazing over the Academy's lights twinkling like stars brought to Earth. Introspection deepened as memories surfaced not as pain, but lessons, the cost of blind hatred in early cycles, the isolation of overpowered solitude, the warmth of connections risked despite loss. I chose mercy when vengeance would have been easier, integration when separation screamed safety. And in breaking the cycle, I found myself. Not witch, not vessel, but Elara. Melancholy lingered, a gentle companion rather than tormentor, acknowledging the price of wisdom. Kairos joined her, arms slipping around her waist as they watched lightning flicker far away.
Guardian of a world we remake,
he murmured, echoing her thoughts. She leaned into him, heart steady.
And we'll guard it together, against whatever shadows come next.
The Reformed Academy thrived under her watchful legacy, new generations wielding magic without chains, inspired by the woman who had walked through eternity to bring them dawn. Yet as Elara stood vigilant, hints of external threats grew sharper, scrying mirrors revealing cloaked figures at borders, ancient seals cracking under unfamiliar pressures. Her role as wise leader solidified, growth complete, from fractured soul to beacon, ready to face whatever rose from the aftermath of broken cycles. Years had woven themselves into the fabric of Eldoria Academy, like threads of silver in an ever-expanding tapestry. The once rigid lines of class blurred into vibrant harmony under Elara's watchful guidance. The courtyards bloomed with gardens tended by commoner and noble hands alike. Training fields rang with the clash of hybrid spells freely shared, and lecture halls echoed with debates on ethics rather than blood purity. Elara, now revered as the eternal guardian, walked these paths with a grace tempered by time, her hair streaked with premature silver from the merger's lingering resonance, eyes carrying the depth of lifetimes, yet softened by peace earned. She no longer wielded cataclysmic power as weapon, but as beacon, mentoring young mages who gathered around her like moths to gentle flame, hungry for the ancient knowledge she alone remembered across shattered cycles. In the grand amphitheater carved from living crystal, Elara addressed a new cohort, her voice warm yet commanding, as she demonstrated fusion weaves that had once been forbidden.
Power without balance breeds the very chains we broke.
She taught, hands glowing as light, and shadow intertwined into protective wards that shimmered like auroras. A young hybrid student, eyes wide with awe, replicated the spell haltingly, earning encouraging nods from peers of all stations.
This knowledge isn't inheritance. It's responsibility.
Elara continued, inner thoughts drifting to the cost, faces of lost allies flickering in memory. Mentoring filled the melancholy voids that still ambushed her on quiet nights, passing on wisdom, a bulwark against history's cruel repetition.
If I teach them mercy alongside might, perhaps no soul will ever need to become vengeance again.
Yet tranquility fractured on a storm-ridden eve when ley lines flared unnaturally across the borders. A resurgent threat echoing the witch's curse in chilling familiarity. Scouts returned, pale-faced, reporting villages plagued by involuntary reincarnations, commoners dying only to awaken in twisted forms, nobles exhibiting parasitic essence drains, reminiscent of the old order's harvests. It's not the wheel turning anew, Elara murmured to Kairos in their shared quarters overlooking the Academy's luminous spires, fingers tightening around the dormant pendant.
But fragments, shards that escape the shattering.
The threat tested the cycle's true end, stirring doubt in councils where reformed enemies, now steadfast allies, gathered. Spectral echoes began manifesting unbidden, Mira's gentle outline in healing wards, Lyra's fierce silhouette on battlements, drawn by residual bonds as danger mounted. Elara led investigations into shadowed forests beyond the Academy, where corrupted glades pulsed with fractured curse essence, trees twisted into looping growth, animals trapped in death rebirth agonies that mirrored the old guardians. Mentoring intertwined with action as she brought promising students along, teaching practical application amid peril. Feel the disruption, she instructed a trembling young mage, guiding his hand to sense the shard's chaotic pull. These fragments latch onto unresolved grudges, amplifying them into curses anew. Climactic battles erupted when the source revealed itself, a hidden enclave of exiles, survivors of the Emperor Puppet's cabal, who had preserved slivers of the core in blood rituals, seeking to resurrect the hierarchy by infecting the reformed world. Action sequences unfolded in heart-pounding fury beneath thunderous skies, Elara's guardian might blending seamlessly with mentored allies. Spectral friends solidified temporarily, answering her unspoken call. Mira weaving barriers that absorbed essence lashes, Lyra's blade cleaving through regenerative abomination spawned from fragments.
We won't let it start again.
Lyra's spirit growled, form flickering as she shielded a young student from a tendril strike. Emotional farewells threaded through the chaos, each spectral aid expending essence to protect the living, knowing this manifestation was final. Mira lingered longest after a desperate heal on a fallen mentor student, her hand passing through Elara's cheek in bittersweet caress.
You've built something beautiful,
she whispered, eyes glistening with ethereal tears. Live it for us.
Live it for us.
One by one, they faded mid-battle, smiles radiant amid explosions of light and shadow, leaving Elara's heart raw, yet resolute. Twists deepened the stakes as battles raged toward the Enclave's heart. Scans revealed curse fragments embedded not just in exiles, but scattered across the realm. In redeemed nobles who had unknowingly retained parasitic traces, in commoners harboring suppressed traumas that acted as beacons. The shattering was never absolute, Kairos realized aloud, dodging a shard-possessed guardian whose form echoed past puppets. Worst of all, divination uncovered a cluster within the academy itself, latent in young mages whose lineages carried faint betrayer echoes, now awakening under the resurgent pull.
To end this truly, we must excise every piece.
Elara breathed, horror dawning. The ultimate sacrifice loomed, a purification ritual requiring her merged essence as catalyst, risking permanent dissipation to draw and consume all fragments. The climax converged in the rebuilt celestial nexus, now a symbol of unity rather than conflict, where Elara orchestrated the final confrontation. Exiles breached defenses in a desperate assault, shard-fueled magics clashing against Academy forces in foundation-shaking spectacle. Lightning webs crisscrossing domes, hybrid volleys shattering illusion wards, ground rupturing into chasms that swallowed abominations. Elara fought at the vanguard, mentoring even in fury.
Channel your fear into focus.
She shouted to students, amplifying their spells with guardian weaves. Kairos guarded her flank, their synergy a dance perfected across lives, shadows entwining with her twilight aura to ensnare the exile leader. A masked figure, revealed as a preserved fragment of the Emperor himself. Dialogues intensified the drama amid swirling chaos.
You think breaking one wheel ends tyranny?
The leader sneered, unleashing reincarnation loops that forced combatants to relive wounds. Elara countered with purification bursts, inner monologue raging.
Revenge birthed this monster, but redemption will bury it.
Twists culminated as the ritual activated, Elara at its core, drawing fragments from across the realm like iron to lodestone. Pain lanced through her as shards flooded in, screams of possessed victims, echoes of old betrayals, Althea's lingering sorrow blending with her own. Students channeled support, redeemed allies offering essence willingly, but the cost mounted, Elara's form beginning to fracture, mortality threatening to claim her eternally. Emotional peaks crested in farewells to spectral allies, who manifested one last time, lending strength for the sacrifice.
We're proud, always.
Lyra's fading voice carried over the din, her blade dissolving into empowering light. Mira's final heal stabilized Elara long enough to complete the weave.
Choose life, for all of us.
With a cry that resonated through ley lines, Elara consumed the fragments utterly. Cataclysmic implosion contained by allied barriers, purifying rather than destroying, releasing trapped souls into true freedom. The exiles fell cleansed or defeated, the leader's mask shattering to dust as the Emperor's echo wailed into nothingness. Silence descended, broken only by settling debris and weary breaths. Elara survived, diminished yet whole. Power reduced to mortal bounds, the merger's last gift expended in sacrifice. She rose amid cheering allies, Kairos supporting her as students rushed forward, awe transforming into deeper respect. Themes of revenge had fully evolved. What began as vengeful cycles concluded in redemptive absolution, Elara's growth complete from wrath-bound soul to eternal protector. In the aftermath, beneath clearing skies painted with dawn's promise, Elara stood atop the highest spire, academy lights twinkling below like stars brought near. Young mages gathered at its base, looking up to their guardian.
I vow this,
She declared, voice carrying on winds that now blew clean and free. Kairos joined her, hand in hers, the academy's future bright with mentored hope. Yet the close lingered adventurous, distant horizons shimmered with unexplored ley anomalies. Hints of realms beyond stirred by the final purification. Elara smiled faintly, heart steady. The eternal guardian's oath sealed, a beacon against whatever shadows might yet rise.